Good afternoon, everybody. Calling the January 23rd, 2025 Planning Board session to order. Oh, right, we do. Can we have a roll call, please, Secretary?
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finity will be late. Secretary is here. Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
Board Member Glazer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mostly better. Yeah, I still don't know what's wrong. We'll talk. Thank you.
Any minutes?
Yes, we have, wrong page. We have the 1/9 minutes.
Okay, January 9th.
That is correct.
Motion to approve by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. So let's go right into 94 Dune Road. Anthony?
Yeah. Look how complicated.
Yeah. Sit in the new chairs. I printed my own out.
Okay.
Good.
Some additional copies for everybody.
Thank you.
It's what I gave you is both the PW Grosser. I gave you a copy of the memorandum that I prepared regarding the DEIS review. This is for the application of 94 Dune Road Holding, the Dockers restaurant site, for a change from one non-conforming use to another, which is currently before the Zoning Board of Appeals. The application is to change it from the Marina restaurant to a 25 unit condo development with associated accessory structures and improvements. So we had a DEIS. We issued a positive declaration. I reviewed the DEIS. I prepared a memorandum indicating that there was some information that we would still need in order to deem this adequate for public review. And so, and just as a little aside, even under the secret guidelines, a DEIS doesn't have to be a perfect document. The question, it's the question, because there's going to be a final that's prepared ultimately for this. The question is it adequate for public review? Did they address the issues that we identified in the scope? So, maybe I'm going to let the applicant actually start this, and then I'm going to. Mr. Bennett coming up here. One of the very first comment that I did in my memo, which actually, if you look at their memo, they've laid it out.
Made it easier to read.
Yeah.
For me to catch
Talks
up.
about actually, John, you sit here, and I'm going to use the aerials and everything else.
Thank you.
That might make more sense.
I'll move it over. Hi.
So the first comment that I made was regarding the soil boring information. They had made a comment in the DEIS that future additional borings to be undertaken to determine, the conditions for the structural components of the development, and that would be done at a later time prior to building permits getting issued.
Okay, just tell us what number you're on here.
Oh, it's the very first page of the PW Grosser memorandum. 2.1.2.
Got it.
So I raised that issue, and I just simply suggested that that information be provided in the DEIS at this time, given the
Nature of the
nature of the
property.
project and the environmental sensitivity. But I also would look to George to get his opinion on this as an engineer, if this is information that could come at a later date or prior to construction. So that was the first one, because that's what the applicant has indicated, is that they would provide that information at a later date. So the question is, does the board agree with.
Is it helpful to have it now, is what you're saying?
I'm raising
Useful.
the question of whether it's vital at this point for the analysis.
And would not the potential mitigation be part of the reason to know it now?
Soil borings?
That's correct. That would be a logical connection between identifying. So that was the first comment, and I'm not sure how the board feels or what the applicant would like to say about that.
Well, having read both reports, it seems that there are several issues that you wanted to update, to augment, and we have some questions. So to say that it's inadequate, is that the word?
Yeah, so just to back up a little bit, the applicant in their review did acknowledge some changes to the DEIS that they would like to make. To make it adequate. So I think there is agreement there that it would be inadequate for public review, and that they would provide a revised document to address the issues that they've identified, or at least at this point agreed with, that they would change in there. At this, some of these issues.
So we're not in disagreement. I mean, like.
Yeah,
Well, but there were some items that I mentioned that, they just, like for the example, this one is the first one that they're saying.
Okay.
So, I'd like to see what
George, do you have some?
I mean, my position.
Oh, sorry, you didn't give us for the
Our position
record.
was as a construction methodology.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Appearance.
John.
Oh, I'm sorry, John Bennett. I apologize.
John
for the
Bennett.
applicant. For the applicant.
And
Bailey Larkin, Bennett Reed.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
Caitlin Kine, PW Grosser.
I didn't hear.
Caitlin Kine, PW Grosser.
Okay.
Sorry, John. Sorry.
It's okay, no.
I guess let John respond to it.
Yeah, this is a construction methodology engineering question, which is typically handled with the building department. I don't know that it would lead to anything that the purpose for the seeker review is. You're looking at impacts on things that are this is just what this load bearing of the soil is, what kind of construction is going to have to take place, but it doesn't impact on seekers' broader environmental concerns. I mean, that would be my position, but obviously.
Well, I think, John, to be fair to both sides, right? I see a point that there should be more of a construction design issue, but at the same time, given the site and where it's located, it's in an active, very active flood zone.
That's true.
And I think that itself places certain restrictions on what kind of foundations can be used to construct buildings on. If I'm not
No
wrong.
question. We're going to have to comply with the FEMA construction methodology. Yeah.
So, given that it's a 25 unit condo building, which is a very big building. I think in terms of the disturbance for the site and what the eventual foundation support would be, I don't think it would hurt to get some indication of what. It may not be a full soil design analysis or design report, but certainly some indication based on what you have, or if you have to do a few more borings from a soils engineer, soils firm, saying that what the expected support parameters would be, and how that affects the disturbance at the site. Because if you can't support that structure strictly by piles, and I haven't looked at the soil borings, you have to put so much borings in it, or if you have to go to a concrete foundation, which I don't think would be allowed in that zone.
Well,
But
no, it's probably going to be. My guess would probably be piles and grade beams and then concrete piers. My guess. I'm not sure, but we can do a few more borings.
Just a few more borings, and a little bit more analysis,
Okay, so
and
plus
a
analysis.
structure from this engineer. Kind of a rough outline where the disturbance may be, and that's where the concern is. What impact of the disturbance based on the foundation you haven't put in would be more so than what you do. Anything can be engineered properly, but it could be engineered in the site location and site conditions.
I was more of thinking of what you just said, which is anything can be engineered properly. But
Yes.
Depends how much you want to spend.
Don't we wish? Don't we wish?
But yeah, so
Okay.
we'll get a rough outline of the foundation area and a few additional soil borings. Is that
Good.
okay, Anthony? Yeah, okay.
So then moving on to the next one, Anthony.
Yep, I had mentioned about the groundwater impacts that the DEIS referenced test hole data from 2016, and which was referenced in our scoping document. The applicant's indicating, and they did have other additional monitoring wells that were provided with the data from 2022. And I think maybe the confusion came from, I'm not sure if, that the DIS was referencing the 2016, test holes, and I wasn't entirely sure if it was being used as baseline data or anything like that. But I think you answered that question. Like I said, I saw the dates of the, but they did provide for 2022, so I'm okay with that. That's okay.
So we would just change that, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I will change that. The next comment, 2.2.2, talks about
wetlands.
I mentioned wetlands verification because I spoke to Marty. The wetlands that was delineated in 22 was not verified by the town, but the applicant is indicating that the wetlands is pretty consistent with what was done previously, which was verified by the town. And
At what date, John?
I don't remember when.
2022?
This is one of those areas that where you don't see a lot of fluctuation. You've got a parking lot, you've got a bulkhead, you've got tennis courts over in the area. And if you're outside of the restaurant and marina area, which is all bulkheaded, and you're outside of the large parking and you're outside of the tennis courts, that's where the wetlands are. So it's not like one of those subject to inundation where you can have additional
Where you
growth and everything.
see-
The request would be that that it be addressed during the FEIS process. That's all.
And that's fair because the next step of this thing is the board then tells the applicant basically how this final impact statement is going to read. So if they, and that's also going to be based on comments from the public and from the involved and interested agencies. So Marty's office is going to get this upon the review. So I'm okay with that. The next one talks about, I mentioned potential impacts as relate to the failure of the sewage treatment facility during a storm event. The applicant does provide information as relates to the design of the structures and the flood zone compliance and everything. I guess what I was looking at was, and I don't know much about, these types of systems and storms and everything else. There's a lot of engineering questions, but in the event that the system fails or from stormwater or the groundwater rises, what happens then? What happens as a result? If so I think that's where my question was coming from, and I'd be happy
Potential changes, yeah.
Yeah, in other words, if the system does in fact fail or get inundated with water, what exactly?
What's the backup plan? Well, I think you might be able to you give some reference to that.
We can definitely beat that discussion up.
Okay, good. So I'm putting a plus.
That's on comment 4.
That is,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we will add. And what's the word? Add and
I just
supplement.
put add, supplement.
Okay.
Put S or add.
So the next one, on the next page, it talks about planning staff memorandum comment number 5. This was the DEIS indicates compliance with the town's coastal resource and water protection plan 2016. And then they identified the various policies. And so I identified several policies here that I thought the DEIS just didn't adequately address, and the applicant has indicated in here that they will expand the analysis on those policies. So
Okay.
I think that's good.
So let's add. Then
The next one, it was comment number 6, potential impacts. It says groundwater, wetlands, floodplains, and surface water. It says the DEIS indicates the project will have social and economic impacts in the event of a loss of property due to storm event or flooding, but they didn't provide any specific information. So they've indicated that they will provide that information as it relates to those impacts. Next one is regarding number 7. This was regarding a comment regarding bringing non-conforming properties into compliance with the zoning code. Not clear how 25 units was determined to be appropriate for the site, although they do provide, to be fair, an analysis of utilizing it either an MF44 or some type of zoning standard, based on so they do provide that. I think you know, perhaps it was more of a comment on the information as pertains to the DEIs as rather than an impact. You know, I guess my goal was, the issue was, you know, what part of the town's goals is not just a change in non-conforming use, but bringing properties back into compliance or
Yeah.
into, you know, conforming status, and that, you know, the DES didn't really analyze, you know, that.
So we want
scope
some
of the
more on
project.
that, or?
Yeah, but I'd be curious to see, you know,
Yeah,
because they
yeah, you
did
guys-
disagree with that
Yeah.
statement.
This is always an interesting thing that happens when you're talking about exchanging one non-conforming use for another. And the analysis to the conforming zoning is almost meaningless, has always been my position, because that's not what's there. There's a pre-existing non-conforming restaurant, there's a marina, there are tennis courts. So it's really unhelpful to say, in
Apples
terms
to
of your
apples.
net analysis, is which is more environmentally beneficial, is what existing zoning would be, because no one's going to do that, because we have a pre-existing non-conforming use. You've got this incredible, how this wins the day, and which drives so much of this project, is the enormous reduction in nitrogen loading on this project. Quite candidly, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, we couldn't make this application if, by not significantly, I mean like overwhelmingly, and P.W. Gross has done a wonderful analysis, which I'll have it just hand out as a separate sheet. I mean, we wouldn't have the merit to make this application if it wasn't such a hands-down winner in terms of the significant nitrogen load. You have a wastewater system for a restaurant and a marina and a bar that is essentially, it's pre-existing non-conforming, it's totally legal,
But
it's a
old.
traditional, it's not much better than a cesspool. And these uses are pre-existing, they're not conforming, they're very intensely used, and the nitrogen loading reduction is uncanny, because now all of that is going to go away. The improvements, the restaurant is going to move away from the wetlands, and you're going to have an STP there. That's really what drives so much of it. So, which is why I'm saying it really doesn't. I don't know what the sense is in terms of net environmental benefits to comparing this.
What you're saying is not apples to apples.
Yeah, it's not. It's to
But are
as
you-
of right
But are you
build-out.
saying that because we have a non-conforming situation now that is really not good for the groundwater at all,
But
and we're
perfectly
going to
legal.
get a better but non-conforming?
No, I didn't say that. You're going to get a highly superior wastewater treatment system. Now that the wastewater from the restaurant, the bar, the marina, the tennis court use is essentially being placed untreated
Mhm.
into
But are you
Shinnecock
saying
Bay.
that should mitigate all of any other non-conforming
It
issues
is,
that come
it
to
is
rise?
such a thumb on the scale as to be remarkable, because you have this. You're now going to have a fully compliant STP there. You're going to have improvements pulled away from the wetlands. They sit right on top of the wetlands now. You're going to have them FEMA compliant. What you should be analyzing is the pre-existing legal non-conforming use and its impact on the environment with the proposed use. Because it's nice that it's zoned, 2 acres, something like that? But that's essentially irrelevant.
But I don't think you are really saying that we should be just simply weighing the decision based on one factor like this nitrogen system,
I just
which is
gave
of
you
course a great
I
improvement.
just gave you a
But
bunch
there are
of
so
factors.
many other factors that may not meet any of the requirements we'd be looking for in a property right on the waterlands.
Well, such as, for example, we're going to meet the wetland setbacks and have the appropriate buffers, where you have a wildly non-conforming structures down by the water. That's a positive. you're gonna have this massive, what is this, like 350, 400 pounds a year, or something like that? I know, I remember somebody tallied it up for a yearly basis, even more, of nitrogen that is not going to go into Shinnecock Bay now. All I'm saying to you is, in terms of this question, it's not really appropriate to analyze it conforming use, which is, it's a pre-existing non-conforming use there since prior to 1957, and expanded with zoning board of appeals approvals. After that, I got some of them.
Can you do that comparison for us and show us? One column where existing and one column what you're proposing?
Yeah, we can do that.
Because otherwise, I mean, that's what you're saying,
Yeah.
but that's
I mean, that makes more sense to compare
compare
apples to apples as opposed to.
Under the
fo-
existing
to
zoning, do you have that the,
No.
No.
He's just talking about
Sorry.
nitrogen load. This is the situation that
And
he's
we
talking
have that.
Yeah.
We've done that.
You've got a lot of
We've
it
done it from a
here,
nitrogen loading.
but we don't have the other side.
we even, okay,
Right.
yes.
And I just have a question
So
about,
what we would be talking
So
about
we
then is
have,
conforming FEMA, conforming
Yes.
setbacks, removal of non-conforming setbacks. Has that all been done? Because that, I mean, after all, I'm saying that's what you really should be looking at. So we should give the board that because I think it's
Yeah.
helpful.
yeah,
John, have you approached the health department with this?
No,
As
but
yet?
there is a DEC permit for it.
Yeah, but DC doesn't control what the health department.
No, it does not.
Assigned.
No, it does not.
Because just a quick reading of this, and just so it's, it seems as though you're kind of doing this completely different from what's been done before as far as sewage flow goes. Because you have a certain amount of sewage flow based on the existing non-conforming use of a restaurant, a marina, a bar with so many seats, and your sewage flow from your 25 units is almost double that in terms of gallons. But you're making the case that it's less nitrogen without.
Oh my
nitrogen.
gosh, yeah, sure.
But
Yeah.
is that what we're actually using as a barometer now? So I can do a 10-bedroom house on an acre of property because I'm reducing the nitrogen load by less than what the normal sanitary system would do.
It's enormous, yeah. I think
Yeah,
you-
but is
But
that
is that the
that's-
driver?
The flow,
is that the
not
driver,
the
the nitrogen
nitrogen.
load, or
If
the
the
sewage flow?
yeah, of course, because if the flow has been tertiary treated,
Well, that's not. I don't think that's a decision for this board to make. So
no,
for the health
no,
department to
no,
make,
no.
'cause
We're
that's a-
confident that the health department will
But
be
there certainly
happy
is a
to
concern
look
that
at
if we start using that as a barometer to size structures on any given property in any zone, then
Oh, I
we're
think
down
you
the
should.
wrong path.
Oh, I think you should.
of course
No.
you. I don't.
No,
I don't
I
doubt
think
that you should.
I think
but-
it's an undebatable, unqualified environmental benefit. I'd rather have more clean wastewater going in to be recharged than fully nitrogen loaded wastewater. How can one argue that?
Well, I would never want to make a decision based on one item like that.
I'm not saying you should.
Yeah.
That's why we have a
Yeah.
draft
I
environmental
think
impact
that's it.
statement. All I was
It's one
saying,
factor.
Yeah,
It's
all I
one
was
factor.
saying-
That's
all I
all.
was saying is a significant factor, and all I was saying in terms
I
of
think
analysis, it should be
so.
the
So-
pre-existing non-conforming to the proposed
I
system.
think if my reading of this is correct, and again it was very quick, just having received it a couple of minutes ago, I think as part of the DEIS or the FEIS, there needs to be a determination from the health department as far as the number of units that's allowed on the site, given the size of the site and given the typical yield of wastewater flow per acre that the health department has been using forever as a way to size.
That's only where you don't have a wastewater treatment system. The only time you have wastewater generation based upon acreage or square footage is where you do not have either a community wastewater system or your own private wastewater system on site. So, everybody knows, this side of Hampton Road, it's you get 300 gallons a day per acre. Where we're sitting right now, because there's a dividing line in the groundwater management zone, you get 600 gallons per acre. But that stuff under articles, that all gets thrown out when you have a wastewater treatment system.
Well, nevertheless, I think I'd be more comfortable seeing the and like a
I
letter
just
from
want
the
to make sure
health
we're giving.
saying that this is appropriate for the site, and that determines then if they don't agree with this approach for your health for your
Have we filed? Have we
number of
filed
units.
for the SDP? No.
then the whole thing changes. If they say that this is excessive as far as sewage, as far as gallons I don't know the health regulations sufficiently enough to make a determination or make a comment really here. But if the health department says that this is too intensive use given the flow that you have, that you can generate on the site. I understand what you're saying about the health, the sewer treatment plant, and I'm not real familiar with that part of it.
So
They'll let you build a site. You tell them once you're my understanding is, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is, when you tell them how much wastewater flow there's going to be, they tell you how big your plant has to be. But there is no.
We did submit a siting report.
We did, okay.
Consultations are
If you would, I'm sorry. Go
ongoing.
ahead.
Yes.
Please explain.
So we did submit a siting report, and the health department did come back with comments they wanted to see in the DEIS, and we have addressed some of those comments. So
something, can you?
But I think the initial comment from Anthony was that there was no explanation in the DEIS as how they came up with the 25 units.
Well, yeah, and I think what John is saying now, that the more appropriate analysis would be the existing conditions, of the existing use versus what they're proposing. I suppose what I was saying is what would be conforming under. They did provide an alternative analysis for a 2-lot plan under the alternative section, so it is in there in that regard. But if John's saying that they would provide some type of,
We'll focus more on existing, actually, what's there, the pre-existing non-conforming use.
That's an interesting comparison that's
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah.
But what about an STP? Where would it be sited on this property, particularly given the fact that this can flood completely?
it's closer to Dune Road, right? I mean, if I remember
It's
correctly.
on the upland side.
Yeah, it's right around here, somewhere in this portion of the site.
What I'm struggling with is that the county is gonna require an STP or an innovative alternative system.
No, it's a
whatever
full
you
STP.
build.
Yes, full
Whatever
STP.
you, I'm just, regardless, if I'm building a house or I'm building 25 condos. So to
Yes.
say that there's
Oh,
a
if you were building a house, no. If you're building a house,
you have to have an you have to have an
Yeah,
IA
you have
system.
to have an IA system, which everybody thinks is great. It's not a bad idea, but there's nowhere near the nitrogen removal that you have in a wastewater treatment plant.
But my point is that the county is gonna make you do this anyway, so to say that's a benefit for building 25 units, I think is stretching the idea,
Absolutely not.
in my opinion.
No. You take what the person, particularly where you have a pre-existing non-conforming use, and you say whether or not it's required or not, it's a reality that that's what's going to happen, and that is going to have a benefit. It's far from a stretch. That's what you get all the time in draft environmental impact statements. You look at the project as built. And if that comes along with certain things, whether they're offers or requirements, you look at that and you say, regardless of where you get there, is that an environmental benefit? It's not a stretch.
Regarding nitrogen, I agree with you. Regarding intensification of use on the site, the numbers, it's more than doubling the use.
How so?
Going from 3,480 gallons per day
Right.
and a seasonal restaurant to 7,500 gallons per day. is-
Treated water.
With nitrogen, I agree with you. But there are other elements that we're looking at. Anthony's going through this report, and the numbers as calculated here show a more than doubling of the intensiveness of the use of the site. And so the other pieces that we'll be looking at have to take that increased intensity into consideration.
Well,
So
intensity is in the eye of the beholder. Again, I would say that if you're generating more wastewater, but it's going into the ground fully treated.
I agree
My
with you
argument
on
would be that-
nitrogen, and
That's
there are
only
other
one-
What other-
environmental
what other
issues
type of-
that
what
we
other
have
type of-
to
Well, there are
consider.
other environmental issues.
Everything
of course.
in
Oh yeah,
secret.
yeah. Of course, we're going to deal with those things. Yeah. Okay, no.
Yeah,
of
so
course,
I
yeah.
think you've made a good point regarding the outcome of nitrogen. I just want to second what George was saying, is that that's not the barometer for Suffolk County Health Department. And then also the calculations that you've made here, going from 3,480 to 7,500, is more than doubling the intensity of the use on the site.
But let's talk about that, because
It's math.
once you switch from conventional treatment to treated wastewater, those calculations based upon the size of the property go out the door, which is why,
Regarding nitrogen, yes.
no, regarding wastewater, which is what the health department looks at. They look at water supply and they look at wastewater, which is why there's now a sewer in West Hampton Beach, because you have these small parcels which you couldn't put apartments on because of the size and because the amount of wastewater that they could generate was calculated based upon the size of the parcel, and now you can have restaurants there. Now you can have apartments above these very small parcels, because that area, that key between the area and how much wastewater you can generate goes out the window, since you are treating it all.
I agree with you. However, I think we should proceed through the report
Yeah, sure.
because your calculations are showing this in one small piece of the picture.
Okay.
So we want some more information here,
Before
Anthony,
we get
is
away
that?
from water,
Yeah,
is this Suffolk County Water Authority? Where do
Yes.
you get the water
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
Have
We're
they-
not drawing this from a well.
And they have given us an approval.
do you
So
have
they-
that to submit?
It's in the DIS, but we can certainly.
Have you
send
seen
a
it?
full copy.
Going back to, your comparison of the wastewater, and the treatment level and everything, what about the water intake? Is the current usage, the current,
I think that's what Kate was
more or
asking.
less.
We'll give you that.
If the SCW gave you a letter that they can supply it out there.
Yeah, it's in the DEIS. They gave.
Oh, it's a water availability
Okay.
then, a supply level. Yeah, we have that.
Okay.
And that's not a secret issue. That's almost like an engineering issue. Do you have can you supply this with the anticipated use?
Right.
That's a water availability letter.
Okay, let's go to
Yeah,
8.
Number 8, this was, they indicated that it's a statement that be expressed by the town. It's just that they used 1 per 11,000 square feet of upland area, I think, as a basis for the 25 units. I guess I was looking for clarification. It's not a huge ordeal. It's just that, I didn't understand, the comparative using the MF40. Is that what they're doing? Are you using the MF44 standards to determine what the density is on this property? I wasn't sure where the 1 per 11,000 came from.
So
other than that.
clarification
So if they could
here.
just clarify that, John.
I think that's the MFPRD density limit, but we'll make
So
sure. We'll
clarify.
clarify.
That's all.
Okay.
And 9?
But this is a statement. This is what John was alluding to about the beneficial to the neighborhood. I guess we don't have to worry about that. I guess I was raising the question whether or not that required more analysis. If it was accurate, that's okay.
10?
The next one is the visual impact. So, this, I indicated that, the DA says that visual impact will not adversely impact the character of the community. And they, indicate that, there would be a change, to the view sheds. But they, I think it fell short of, because the scope was very clear that the planning board felt that there would be significant potential visual impacts in the context of not what's on the south side of Dune Road. I understand there's stuff there and they've accurately described it, but what the impacts in the context of the vast open
That's the only parcel
preserve area on the
developed.
north side of the road. Is what drove the significant potential. And so I'm and then obviously they said that the design of the project and everything effectively mitigates visual impacts. I think I think they should just, at least at the very least, put the statement in there in the way the planning board has stated it, that the potential impacts would be significant, because that's what the scope said. I'm not sure that I agree with the statement that the visual impacts.
They're gonna be taller because they're FEMA compliant.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
right.
so I
And
need
they're gonna be
some
close to the
more.
road,
Yeah,
so
I think
in your
that's
face.
legitimate if they could do that. Is that okay, John? Is that in your part of it?
Yeah, can we take care of that?
A little bit more information.
It just sounds like maybe an amendment to the visual part of the
Further discussion on it.
further discussion on it. Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
10?
Understand, of course, that it's right across the street,
Yeah.
that massive round dune complex.
Number 10. No, I'm sorry, number 10. No, number 11.
Yeah.
affordable housing. This was just a statement that, you know, the applicant indicated that they would pay a fee in lieu of the affordable housing. What I'm just simply stating in there that's the applicant doesn't have, I mean, that they could propose that, but that decision gets made by the town, and that the affordable housing, satisfying the housing, affordable housing, it could be done any number of ways at the discretion of the planning board on the recommendations of Janice Shearer. So I just think that the DAS should outline what the affordable housing, how those can be
Okay.
satisfied, what the options are, that's all.
Okay.
Outline options, okay.
Number 11, no, not, we did that. Number 12, the Southampton 400 sustainability element. I noted that, I was simply noting that we had the climate action plan adopted in 2023, and this didn't compare it to that document. But they indicate that the final scope was issued in 2020. The 2023 plan was not included in the final scope, which is true. It wasn't included in the final scope. We didn't have it yet. So I don't know. I just raised the question, and
Could that be addressed in the final?
That would be
That's kind of
your
what this
request.
is that I don't have a problem with that. I can do that.
Thank you.
That works.
Thank you.
Number 13 talks about potential impacts as relates to the Noah Slosh Zone. So let me just break it down to you a little bit. Basically, what the DAS, as far as I was able to read, it was sort of laying out scenarios, right? Different scenarios under current conditions, under storm conditions, different category storms, under sea level rise of 12 inches and 18 inches. And so it became a little muddled, as I think, because you said in here that you'll make the requested revisions, and then you gave some description of what, that would be good, just because, like I said, it's just a little unclear, so they should outline, however they do it, what the scenarios are, so then we
We
could,
can do that.
so that way the public could see it and just say, okay, these are the different scenarios.
Okay.
That's easy enough.
14.
Number 14 talks about potential impacts on transportation. So one of the big things, and you'll see what I'm focusing on my comments, was in the event of an evacuation, the planning board had raised this, and so I raised some questions about the routes that people have to take, are there designated routes, how that and what in the event of the storm, are we looking at bottlenecks? I realize that sometimes it sounds exaggerated, overzealous and everything, but we also understand that the storms have been changing, and after the last storm back in 2012, Sandy, maybe you couldn't even get gas anywhere, so you could see that there are always potential traffic impacts. So, whether or not we could evaluate if there's going to be a bottleneck at the bridge or something, I don't know. I mentioned it because it came out of the
It needs
scoping document.
further
So I
development.
just want to see what what the applicant has to say here, because that's what we really were focusing on, is in the event of a storm evacuation. Dune Road is underwater when there's a storm.
This road is regularly closed too, just
Yes.
from high tide events, so
Yeah.
that should be noted as well.
Okay, somewhat.
Yeah.
Maybe not a great.
Full moon, high tides.
Okay. 15.
The town has an undelegable duty under the state law to keep roads passable.
It's
That's what
impossible.
all the case law says.
Except when they're not.
Except when, then what do they do?
It's supposed to be designed to be passable.
Well, somebody should have thought of that 30 years ago.
Number 15 piggybacks off the number.
Yeah, please do.
Can I
please
just go
do.
back to comment
Oh, yeah.
14? So the DIS, we did look at the evacuation zone that the site is in. It is in category 1, so there is ample notification if a storm is coming to give people time to get out of the area. As far as looking at bottlenecks and bridge capacity, these evacuation routes are determined by Suffolk County. And in order to do some more of those analyses on the back end, we need input from the town and the county on some of these volumes and how to do that. This is from the traffic engineer, and we need to understand some of the assumptions. It's unknown to a private applicant, and what are we looking at? And what is our scope? How big for Dune Road do we also have to take into account everybody else on the road and everybody at the
Maybe you could
development
just,
across the street, and how do we
Maybe you could just look at the history of the road closure of that particular road. I'm sure
Okay.
that's documented somewhere.
Well, I was gonna suggest you might wanna touch base with the town police department or the public safety office.
Okay.
You know, having been involved with that several years ago, you know, evacuations and emergency situations, they may have information that would be helpful to you
Okay.
as to
We
what.
did
Plus, you're the
reach
only
out.
folks that are gonna have the estimate of how many more vehicles you're expecting to be generated from this project, right? So in that
That's-
discussion, it's gonna be different than a restaurant perhaps, or certainly in an overnight situation, it's gonna be very different. But you would have that information. So your discussions, you bring something to the table and they bring something
We
to the
could look
table.
at the volumes for
Yeah.
our development,
Yep.
certainly. And we did, I do wanna get on the record, we did consult with the police department.
Did.
Basically, some information for their ability to service, you know, in an event, something would happen at the site, be able to get there. We didn't specifically ask about evacuations, we did ask anything that is helpful for this development for us to consider. They didn't bring that up, but we can certainly go back and ask about evacuation and any information
That would be
that they may
helpful.
have.
An in-season and off-season is
Yeah,
significantly
We
different.
just have to be, looking at what happened in LA, which is so unexpected, but we have to be prepared for the unexpected. And the traffic jam was unbelievable. So try to mitigate as much as
It
possible.
was foreseeable.
Yeah, one would think, right?
We do request if we can handle this in the FEIS as opposed to the DEIS and get some more comments from the public. about it,
I don't
and then
necessarily
address
have
it
a
as
problem with
whole.
that,
And give
because
us
at the end of the
time
day,
to consult.
when
Well,
you make
for
a
this
decision, you
particular
want the
thing,
data.
but
Yeah, but just
we
for this
have
particular.
a lot
yeah.
more information that we need, is what we're saying.
Yeah, but the
There's
idea
a
would
lot more
be to
information.
include it in the FEIS because we'll
Give
get
us
public
some
comment as well
to
and
have
some
those
time.
consultations. It'll give us some time to have some of those consultations and again, to hear from the public. and
Well, what are we looking at in timeline to get this back as, to be deemed adequate?
Well, what ultimately, after we go through this, I mean, they're gonna go back today and they're gonna start making the changes because we've given them.
Right.
I'm gonna bring this back on the 13th with a revised memo, I think, right? Unless I don't.
The 13th is what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, just because I wanna revise my memo, I think.
It's 3 weeks, right?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
But it's gonna be it'll be in their
It's up to
court,
you,
the ball will
your
be in their court.
schedule. You have to tell us whether you want more
We're
time
gonna
or
revise
not.
memo.
No, I just want to, I think, I have to, since in response to them, where some of my items have been addressed or are not going, that we're okay with, I want to revise my memo to accurately reflect what we're
So
requesting.
first you want to revise your
I'm
memo.
gonna revise it and
Then
put it
they're
on the
going to
13th,
revise
and then they're
their-
gonna revise their DES. What I'm saying is they're gonna go back today and start because they've got some feedback from the
Right.
planning.
Okay.
So we'll expect to
Just
revise
make
memo
sure
on the
that,
13th.
that they're all these reports are like draft 2, draft 3.
I'll
Because
do that.
otherwise-
I'll track the changes and then.
For
give you that.
everybody, right.
That would be helpful.
Number 16, again, talks about visual and aesthetic resources, but the applicant has indicated that they'll provide additional information. Number 17, oh yes, this is another one that talks about visual and aesthetic, so they're going to be providing the additional information. The next one, comment number 18, this again talks about evacuation zones and the sewage treatment plant, but the applicant has indicated, how they're going to address at least in the evacuation zone and the additional information for the STP. Number 19, again, it's the same thing, that there's multiple sections of obviously the DEISs that speak to various issues, so, that again
They
talks.
repeat themselves in
Yep.
different places.
At
Very similar.
Number 20, again, it is repetitive as it relates to the evacuation. 21, adverse impacts that can't be mitigated. Again, I just noted in here that based on the current DEIS, that the visual impacts weren't adequately discussed, so I raised that as a potential. And that may not be the case after new analysis, but we'll see. Number 22 talks
Similar.
about acknowledging flood-related impacts due to major storm events.
Oh, it's similar, isn't it?
But I think, what the applicant is saying is that they did indicate, the flood zone information, what the storm surge information, and I think with the clarification of these scenarios, I think that's gonna help.
What was the last update of the FEMA flood maps? Do we know?
About 10, 11 years ago, isn't it? Yeah. What was it?
Was it?
2009 was the last time we updated
Ouch.
the FEMA maps.
Wow,
That's totally unusable in my
Yeah.
opinion.
particularly in our area.
Well,
I mean, it's not your fault.
Has,
No.
has any
It's better than the
request been
coastal
made?
erosion hazard map, which was 1989.
I don't know if they're updating the FEMA maps. I know that there was talk about updating in other regions, but not necessarily up here. I know that they recently updated the COBRA maps, which is the coastal barrier resources. So that might be applicable. That's whether or not projects can be eligible for FEMA, federal funding for reconstruction.
Yeah, that's an insurance issue, not a.
Number 23, I talk about the existing bulkhead and floating dock. They said it would remain as part of alternative 2. Oh no, sorry, that the alternative does not realistically evaluate the potential use or removal of the dock, but the applicant has indicated that they're maintaining the docks for the current residents. They're not proposing to remove them. And they already had, I believe, permits all in place from a number of years ago when they redid the bulkhead and dredging too. Was there dredging that was done there, or?
No.
No.
Maybe some bulkhead, like the foot of the bulkhead
Gotcha.
dredging, but.
So they
yeah.
have permits, when they redid them, and they're saying that they're not removing them. So I'm okay with that. And then the last comment I made was when we talked about the reduced density alternative, that's what the scope asked for. I raised the question of, they went from 25 to 20. What was that, based on? And, should they be considering something for a lesser? But as they point out in here, our scope didn't specify a number of units that they should be analyzing. Just said consider something, less than what you're proposing. They're proposing 20. If that's what the applicant's proposing, we'll review their analysis based on that. So what I'm suggesting then is I'm going to revise my memo. I'm going to track the edits, bring it back to the planning board, so they have a clean document. And in the meantime, the applicant then will proceed.
And we're looking at what date?
We're just going to put this back on to get the updated memo from you.
From you.
13th.
So just mark that, Anthony's edits.
Yes. Does that work, John?
All right?
Thanks.
And when do we want the applicant back?
Well,
That's going to be
Whenever
subject
you're
to what
ready.
we can
that's
get.
going to be however long they take to get the
Okay.
document. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you for the conversation, for listening.
Thanks.
Good,
Oh,
good
you know what, then,
conversation.
can we just do an extension then?
Yeah.
Or can we just
Well,
deem
there's-
it inadequate for public review? Or do you want my revised memo to do that?
Why don't you have your revised memo do that? Yes, and we'll
Yeah.
try to get you stuff as we can.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Work in progress.
So we're
Okay.
getting there. Thank you.
Discussion, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Claire, you want to go? Claire, you want to? NRP Holding,
I'll just stay here if that's okay.
you can stay here. yeah. Are
Stay
you
there,
all on
John.
it? Yeah.
May I be entitled to a short bathroom break?
Yeah.
Grateful the bathrooms are still working.
Yeah, these are
I'll organize
working.
him while he's.
Entitled to a short bathroom break. I'm stealing that right from Liar Liar, the
You
Jim
didn't raise
Carrey
your
movie.
hand.
Oh,
John.
God, John.
These chairs are so fancy.
Oh, they're very comfortable.
Oh, you got new chairs too?
Everybody, yeah, they're all your chairs.
My feet, I can now sit up, but my feet don't touch the ground.
That's what the chairs for.
It's my mother's fault.
That's it.
It's not gonna recognize me either.
Claire, I have lots of reports from you. Which are we looking at now?
Those are the ones I handed out right at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I have fresher versions of those.
Yeah,
Um,
I have the, there's no January 9th,
yes.
the draft staff report.
Right.
That's good,
It's not bad.
but you have
I have a
updated-
fresher version,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not bad. Okay,
Only a little.
okay, then I'll put all these away.
When it comes up.
This is the stuff.
Sorry. Exhausting.
Oh, I thought I had it with me. No, I know I did. No, fine. It'll show up.
Okay, should I put a map? So we know what we're talking about? Or
Yeah, you have little ones? Do you have any little versions?
Just very, very
Claire
large
never has
versions.
little maps. These are.
I would love little maps, but then I can't see it.
This goes far. I'm not that sure. Just my head hard on.
Yeah. No,
Phone, wallet, keys, glasses, now hearing aids. I mean, it's just.
Everything in one.
You need a
And then you can't forget.
Ours.
It's one purse. A purse.
It's helpful.
That's the purpose of
Satchel, perhaps.
I have something similar
Oh, there you
to
go.
that, and my 35-year-old said, I'd never carry something like that. Just to go, that's okay.
It's a man bag.
And, they're practical.
No respect.
Okay, so, where we're at is that, at the last meeting, there was some back and forth about some conditions, so John had requested an extension, but the planning board had adopted the subdivision pre-app report as a method to go forward. So where we're at here is the two site plans. Yeah, so the main site plan, which is the 79 units, which is gonna be the bulk of our conversation, and then the smaller one, which is the pre-existing, like, clean up
Laundry.
site plan. Yes, exactly. And then with that, before any action can be taken, you have to adopt finding statements based upon all the review that the town board did, and you were party to that application. So, so I had forwarded you the finding statement again, and I have copies of that too, but that's the same thing that was passed out, so that's nothing new, but there's more copies of that. As we've been discussing back and forth, really it comes down to the affordable housing and implementing all these codes, right? It is MFPRD on the application, and there's restrictions related to that, and then there's restrictions related to the affordable housing. So at this time, there is 78 affordable units. One is in a manager's unit, comes up to 79. Of the 78, it turns out that 16 will be community benefit units that are required, because 20% of the entire project has to be at least be affordable, as defined under chapter 216 of the code.
And that's a certain income level, is that it, or a certain rental?
Well, the income level is another part of the conversation, so.
Okay.
What's the nomenclature for the 16? Tell me.
Community
benefits.
benefits,
Community
yeah,
benefit,
but
okay.
we interchangeable, you'll see me say affordable, affordable, but in the code it's.
Isn't that to increase the density, the community benefit number?
It's party to the application, there could not be an MFPRD without it, right?
But yeah, that's what the whole zone change was about.
But then what's the difference between the 16 and the
62?
Yeah, I was trying to do the math in my
The
head.
length, amongst other things, the length of the duration of the affordability component, the restriction. There's 16.
No, please, go ahead, because we're gonna have to get into this
Yeah, we have
anyway,
to-
so we're not gonna agree.
What I wanted to hand out is the language that we're willing to agree to on this.
I'll take it.
So I'm passing out to you the staff report, and at the end of the staff report, based upon all the codes, I've gone through the codes and the requirements and who has to do what, and covenants and restrictions. But in that, I had a recommendation of what the covenant should be. And then upon their review, they have a recommendation on what they'd like the covenants to be. And I'm getting my feedback from Janice, who is the head of Department of Land Management and is cited to be the person to be overseeing 216 at this point, even though we have a housing director too, but that is.
So isn't the
what's-
town board, doesn't this come under the purview of the town board?
It was not in the zone change.
No?
No, it wasn't. They've left it in your lap. I
can tell you that I think it would have probably made more sense in the town, but it's not, but that's not part of the zone change thing. But typically that's, for some reason, you the guys have handled it. I'm Sandy Hollow, you guys handled it. But what I want to stress here is that the town wants, there are qualifications for 80% of the median income for the Nassau County area, and then it goes up to 130%. And the town wants some of the units to be only essentially available for the 130%, which is candidly, personally, a policy that I can understand and would be supportive of. But I'm not, I don't want to, it's very difficult because I understand the policy of the town, and I'm not criticizing that. You know, that's 130% of income is one of the somebody works for the town, the other one is a plumbing contractor. Somebody works for the for the police department. The other one is has a small business or something like that. And I get that and I understand. But I can't agree to that. And the reason I can't agree to that is because the state and federal and other funding sources that we're using don't allow that. They want to push more towards the 80%.
Did the town know this from the
The
get-go?
town knows that the town must have known this from the get-go because it's the law. So if
So
you
what
look
you
at,
handed out,
if
yeah.
you look at, this is what I
Let me
can.
give them the section.
Yeah. This is but what the law says though, what your own town code
Where do
says
you have that clear?
is in the instances where the conditions of any grant or federal, state, or county regulations require eligibility priorities and restrictions different from the restrictions set forth in this chapter, the town shall accept same.
Okay, no, we have,
Oh, okay.
I need to read it, I can't.
Yeah, let's just
No,
go
no.
through it.
No, I understand. All I'm saying is that I
This
understand
is the code.
Janice's push for this from a policy point of view. I mean, as a
Highlight
town
it?
resident,
Did you highlight it?
as a town resident with,
I put a little star next to it. So
This
there's
is-
two sections.
To give us a
What page
page.
number?
His section, which is page, why isn't there pages on
It
this?
is 323, 5, there are, down at the bottom.
See at the bottom
At the
right,
bottom
it says,
part.
it looks like a
See, 10
date.
On the right
those are,
23?
those are revision dates, right? 10, 20.
No,
No,
it's
but-
6 of
Oh, you're
23,
right.
7 of
10,
23.
Oh, I got a different.
Ten.
version
So
of
where
that.
are we?
G, it says
G.
G. It's 1023.
1023G, right.
In
Star.
instances with the little star,
Oh, yeah, okay, G.
and it says the town shall accept the same.
Instances where the conditions of any grant or federal, state, or county, of a grant, is that the grant you're talking about, the money?
Yeah, this is all built with
Require
compilations of
eligibility,
grants.
priorities, and restrictions different from the restrictions set forth in this chapter. The town shall accept the same.
So Janice understandably wanted to have it all go into the town lottery. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, this is just I understand it.
All being all 80, all 78 units or all 60?
No, some of the units, but it doesn't matter because our funding sources don't allow that. And I think properly for what I would think she wanted to have, so you could edge it up towards the 130% of the median income, either individually for couples in the Nassau County, the Nassau Suffolk area, which is what the guideline is. But these funding sources all push towards the 80%. And they have various mixes, but the funding does not allow me.
And they don't modify the funding
Nope.
if you go back and
Nope.
you say, look,
Nope.
this is the town code we're dealing with?
So I can't agree to a covenant language. I cannot agree to a covenant language that makes my funding dead on
You lose the
arrival.
money, yeah.
And because it doesn't work without it. That's the whole reason. That's the way these projects work.
Okay, what's your point of view? I mean, not your point of view, but your understanding.
But in the code, it says the covenant shall be reviewed by the Department of Land Management, and the Department of Land Management is telling me that they would want the 16 units, not the entire 62, because in reality, they would have been able to do the 62 as right. They wouldn't have to have had affordable component to it. So she was just looking for the 16 to be eligible to do the
So
moderate to middle income.
moderate to middle in perpetuity?
Yeah, well, in perpetuity is on the
That's
table.
another
It
issue.
is-
That's on the table
That is for
for
those
the
16 units,
The rest is 50 years,
50 years for the rest.
the rest.
So, and what happens is if the 16, for instance, are, one puts the 130% of the 16, can your, just for my own knowledge or our own knowledge, can you average it across the 78, or it's that no apartment can be 130%?
The funding sources do not allow me to do that.
Any single
Yeah,
apartment?
because what
Okay.
they do is they push this
Yeah.
towards the lower.
Just wondered if they allowed an
So-
average or it's just.
So John, if you know the breakdown, we have, forgetting the 16 that we're talking about, out of the 78, you know the breakdown of how many is going to be 80%, how many is going to
No,
be, you don't know
No,
that breakdown.
it's all based upon the funding that's available.
But
It
we don't know,
changes.
but the
But-
funding is,
But you know what the funding is, no?
right, the funding is available, so you should know how many units are going to be in what.
The funding that's
category.
available one day changes from the next day, and the mix changes from the next day, from one day to the other. They're out constantly beating the bushes for the available funding, but all of it says, the state and federal funding says that you cannot have parameters that are consistent with the town code. That is why I have this language. The difficult
So-
thing for me is that I don't disagree with the policy,
The re-
but
But that's beside the point.
what I was getting at is that if we knew out of the 68 in totality,
Mhm.
that how many units were going to be in that 130% range.
We don't.
None
Then-
can be, that's what their point is.
Yeah.
None,
None.
none.
None can.
So then you can say
Anything
offset.
above 80%
No.
is what.
You'll have a mix, but it'll all have to be topping out at 80% based on the funding.
That's
When
what
will
I
you
hope.
know what the mix will be? At what point do you lock it in, or do you never lock?
But if they're saying that it's all going to be topped out at 80% of average,
Mhm.
then I mean there's almost no route to get anything for 130%.
I don't see a
Which
clear route towards
which
130%.
overrides
The affordability?
the town code, or by saying that the planning board should review the covenants, should that mean that it should be reviewing the covenants?
Not planning board, actually, it does say Department of Land.
So the Department of
So
Land.
it is, I mean, it is Janice.
Right, but
Yeah.
then the land, shouldn't that also be read in conjunction with the town code? The covenant should be reviewed in conjunction with what the town code
It
says?
says there's an override. Your own
That's-
town code
That's what
says
I'm
there's an override.
suggesting.
And the only thing one can hope for is that these are rental units, so maybe the parameters will change. I don't know. It's not like these are ownership units. I mean, that's the only. I'm not promising anything. I don't have a crystal ball, but
John,
And I don't need to answer that, but
I mean, go ahead.
I'm just, the applicant does not have the funding source right now. They're still working on it?
yes, as we speak. And one of the reasons why I'm pushing to get this approval is that the applications are not technically complete until we have the site plan approval.
Hmm.
So it's a
Catch.
typical
Yeah.
intra-governmental catch
So
22.
are
Yeah,
there
that's
funding
New York
sources that
State.
would allow you to go to 130% for some of the units?
Perhaps fully town funded, maybe, but fully town funded, and that's
But
fully
there's no
town
federal
funded.
or state grants you think that will allow you to go to the 130?
This is the representation that has been made to me, and I am in turn representing it to this board.
I have a couple of questions. First off, has our affordable housing attorney reviewed
A director,
all of this?
the director,
Yes.
yes, she is on board with Janice's message.
And Janice's message in English is,
She wants
16
the
units,
16 units to be
Moderate
edged
to
towards the
middle.
130, which again, I understand. I embrace the policy, but it doesn't work with the funding.
And that's my other question. So it's 130 now. If the federal government changes it next year to 120 or 140 or whatever, it just flows along and you have to change who's eligible
Yes.
to rent these?
Yes.
the leases change,
Yeah,
or are you
yeah.
locked in?
No, we can change the leases. We're doing a program in Southampton Village right now, where the village is saying that the leases can only be of a certain term, but that's a little bit different because it's all privately funded.
Oh.
So these programs are as varied as one can imagine.
And I worked a little bit on grants, nothing in this
Yeah,
area,
yeah.
but,
I mean,
so
I'm
is
not an
the
expert
the
either.
grant or the subsidy they give you for 1 year, and next year
I
come
don't
back
know.
and ask for
I-
more, or 5 years?
I don't know. I don't know enough to make a representation that I would feel comfortable with.
So the rules could change,
The
I
rules
think,
could change,
anytime.
which is, to be honest with you, why I tried to keep this, excuse the expression,
Simple.
as loosey-goosey as possible. But at the same time, knowing that I couldn't agree with the town language.
Did we see the town?
So by you saying,
What I'm suggesting is on the bottom of page 14 of the report, which I have not given to Jeff. But I had given that to you in that email.
Yeah, no, we saw it in the email, and I ran it by the client, and they said that they couldn't do it. And I know Jim Burke wanted to see this, and I put it on his desk. I know he's been in and out of executive sessions, but he may have something to written on about
Claire,
it.
which
What is that?
part of page 14?
14, the following
At
are
the
the
report.
proposed covenants. It's I, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. So 1 is the one he's talking about. Here,
Can you just read it
Yeah, I got
so
this.
that we,
That's right.
that's mine.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
okay.
So yes,
Read that.
I'm saying 20% of the 78 units shall remain affordable per Chapter 216 in perpetuity. These units shall be interspersed through the development and shall be a mix of apartment types, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. That's part of the code.
Right.
The income level of these units shall be moderate to middle, 80% to 130% AMI, as established by the town of Southampton, administered by the housing director per Chapter 216.
Okay, so John, what
It's
you're
the
saying,
second sentence that I can't, I can't,
interspersed?
no, can't agree with that. The income level shall be 80 to 130. That's what I can't
You
agree
can
with
do the first
that.
2 sentences, but then not the second sentence, the third sentence, I'm sorry.
Well,
So,
and how
So you
would
can't get funding for your 62 units?
no.
It
That's what
has
I'm
to be
being
for the
told.
whole
Yes,
project.
that's what I'm being told.
I see.
So it's the 80 to 30
Yeah.
that
that's the
you
issue.
can't
16
commit to.
units are in perpetuity. Well, you'll see my language, the mix of middle.
The
My
number of
language
units
is
shall
20% of the
remain affordable.
78 units shall remain affordable in
Oh, for
perpetuity.
50 years.
And the
Oh,
remainder shall remain affordable
Yeah.
for a period of 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
I mean,
The
all
issue,
these,
the issue is only about this, about the income level. That's
Yes.
the
the
issue.
income level.
And with your sources or your people who are doing this are saying there is no grant that will allow them to go to 130 for any portion of the apartment.
Nope.
I guess we need to know something more specific about that. Are these HUD monies? Are these state housing authority monies? Some of them do allow you to go to 130. So maybe they
I'm
only
not
want
aware
to.
of that.
Yeah, so maybe they only want to apply for the ones that don't allow it. But in order to meet the town code, we've got to get some of these that are going to be eligible to go to 130.
No, in order to meet the town code, you have a provision that says where the conditions of the grant or federal, state, or county requirements require priorities different, the town shall accept same. So I have met the town code.
Right, but then the policy is for the planning
without-
director
No.
to
The-
be able to make their recommendation, which is for good reason. I mean,
No.
the 130% are professionals that cannot live in the community, and therefore there's a gap. And when the housing plan gets put in place, that's identified as, working professionals cannot afford to live here, which exacerbates the traffic problem. So I think I agree with Janice's recommendation. I think it's just a figuring out of how does the town work, and there's a lot of money. It was in the front page of the newspaper. There's a lot of money in this housing fund. Could the town collaborate and then, work with who's ever giving you that determination where you could get your funding for your 62 from one place and your 16?
That's what our
From the
language
town,
says. Our language says the mix of income eligible housing shall be low, moderate, median, and middle, as restricted pursuant to grants or subsidies from the federal government, state of New York, or other municipal agencies. I'm leaving the door open.
For not doing it as well, though.
Well, of course, because that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
so
yeah.
that's a chance that we
see.
can't
No, you
take
don't.
because it's needed in the community.
All right, it's nice that it's needed, so talk to your state and
what
federal
about-
government about it.
That's what I'm
John,
suggesting.
Okay.
What, yeah, but what
But I'm
about,
leaving the door open for that.
what about, I think what I'm hearing from from that end of the table is that is there a creative way to split the funding, to take the 16 units and have that funded in some kind of
Well, by the time
collaboration between the town and the developer, and then
There's
the
a
rest.
precedent years.
Jackie,
And that's what you've left open.
That's
That
why
type
I'm
of
leaving this open.
collaboration.
This is what's so
you left
frustrating.
that open in,
I've left it open.
item 2.
Oh,
It's
you
very
have.
creative drafting,
mix
if I
of
may,
income-
patting Bailey and myself on the back. I've left the
All
door
right,
open.
let me read it,
You
let's
did.
read it then.
Okay.
The mix of income eligible housing shall be low, moderate, medium, middle, as restricted to grants or subsidies,
Or
Manager-
other municipal agencies, meeting the town. of
Meeting the
Southampton.
town.
Okay.
Has anybody spoken to the town? Has Jen?
Yeah, they're in the midst of securing that funding also.
They
You're
are.
in the top, right? Am I mistaken?
We're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
the
word
question,
restricted, that doesn't sound good.
Excuse me?
Is there a different word?
Well, that's the only language I can live with. in
so
all
I have
this
two
shit.
questions. But you're forgetting for a moment if what you're trying to achieve here with getting up to that 130%. You're willing to allow 16 units to remain affordable per chapter 216, period.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity. What does that give us as far as income levels under chapter 216?
It leaves it up to, it says Department of Land Management, but that would be the housing director in income eligibility.
And that's what's covered by, that's what I tried to cover by 2.
I know, but
So is that a good thing? I mean, is
I
that
can't
what
buy
Janice is
myself. But if the
wanting?
town wants to come forward, it's really in the town's, it's in-
Best
really in the
interest,
town's
right?
interest, and
Well,
it's the town's, it's in the town's power.
I think what you're saying is Janice is saying there's a lot of funding out there, federal and state, for low income housing, and that the policy of the town is to not forget the working professionals who cannot
Yeah.
live here.
That's exactly what she's saying, and I agree with it, which is why I have the language. The mix shall be pursuant to grants or subsidies from the federal government, state of New York, or other municipal agencies. I'm presuming, I can't speak for the town, but hypothetically, if the town wants to fully fund those 16 units, I'm
How
assuming
did we get 16?
20%.
Of the
Yes, but the
7.
way you've worded it, it basically gives the developer the full authority to go ahead and move with the 16, not 130%. If he's got money that's
That's the only way I can do it, because I
Well, no,
can't
there
do-
is another way you
No,
can
I
do it.
can't
It
be
simply
subject-
says that the 16 will be developed with monies that allowed you to go to 130%, and then it's up to the developer to find that money.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that because only a fool will key a land use approval into the action of a third party. I'm
Well,
not
aren't you
that.
doing that
And
with the others?
but-
Your
no, you
your
can't-
approval
you
is
can't-
based
you can't
on
do
your
that.
third party now, the funding which requires you to go only to
That
80%.
would be
What's different?
That would be an illegal condition.
What's an illegal condition?
An illegal condition is where you're tying my hands to the actions of a third party.
Well, aren't you doing that with the 80%?
No,
You're saying
no.
to us that you can only go to 80%.
I'm not saying it. The federal and state government.
Okay.
Your beef is with the federal and state
We
government.
will
David.
disagree on some
Okay,
of the
all right.
language, but
But
your
this is all I-
language
this
is
what I can
not.
live with.
But you're saying the language is open-ended enough, and it's not really
It's
open-ended. It
also
basically gives
open-ended enough for the town to come forward, which
Well,
is what you're
which I
missing.
think is the most important part of this. It's open-ended.
Right,
I
but you
agree
can
with you.
do
I would-
that.
You know, you can't say to the developer, change that to the point where you could develop these. What if the town doesn't step forward to give you something to give you
Exactly.
130%? Then you
Exactly.
can't
Well,
develop.
but then
it.
the
That's
town
so
has to
restrictive.
take the decision-making as
Yeah,
to
but
whether or
the
not they
town,
want
you
to
can't-
lose
we can't
the entire
dictate- we can't
project.
And
dictate or
this is what
predict what
this
the town will
allows
do.
it.
But the
This allows
town,
it.
I mean, the town has to decide whether they're going to lose the entire project over
The
their
town.
requirement for 16.
Or the town
Or
can
not.
step up under that second
Or the
condition and
town
say
can
we
step
want
up.
to.
Can I also just here say that I don't believe this is a planning board decision.
Well,
This is a
I sort
town
of agree
board
with you,
decision.
but we're now
And
at
it's in
the,
our lap, and I don't think we want it in our lap. Is there anything that we could do to
Yeah,
petition?
you could write a
town
condition.
board.
You can write a condition that the income eligibility is subject to review and approval by the Department of Land Management.
no,
Your input.
no, we can't, because this already says this,
Or
but
the
it makes
town
it
board.
subject to the grants. And I went to the town, and I got an approval, I got a zone change, approval. You can't send me back to that. They didn't condition it this way. Now we're stuck with it. And this is what I'm telling you I can live with. And what I've done is I've crafted it so that if the town steps up on those 16 units,
You have the,
yeah,
you
and
have
there's
the
all this
flexibility.
teeth gnashing about it. Okay, well, your lobbying, so to speak, should be to the town.
I think we should be asking Kara back to give you the money.
That's fine, but I can't
mean,
be
if-
a prisoner
if
to that.
If that's what the town,
Yeah.
and I don't disagree.
But it'd be the town board. not
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Well, yeah.
but I mean, we've got money that we're trying to figure out how to use.
And here's an
for the-
opportunity.
For the community
It
housing
is an
funds.
opportunity, and do you have to solve all the housing problems with one project?
No.
No, you don't.
No, we can't.
However, there's a need for every income level.
Yeah.
Which is another point I was gonna make. If we're
Okay.
stuck with the 30 to 80%, maybe we say 50% needs to be 30 to 50 and
Can't do it.
50%. Why can't you do that?
Because that's not what the funding allows. I can live, quite candidly, everyone, I can live with this language. That's it. That's what I have the
Have
approval
we
for.
Our
seen
job
the
is
funding?
planning,
Have
not
we
to
seen
solve
the
a business
language of the
model,
funding?
though.
Excuse me?
I said our job is planning, not to solve a business model. We're saying this is the
Business model.
ingredients
This is the biggest workforce housing project in the village. Your job, if I may be so bold, is to approve it, so some federal judge doesn't say to you, you guys haven't done enough. It's going here. Just read Village of Belterre. If you haven't done
Yeah,
enough as a
but-
municipality,
I don't think
The
you-
point is that that's not the code that we wrote.
David,
you know?
I'm
Right.
not
The table.
trying to entertain you from a humorous point of view. That's what the case law says.
Have we seen your funding documents, in other words? I mean, because I
That's
file
not
grants
your
all the time too.
job as a planning board.
Well, this is not our job
Well,
either.
I don't disagree.
Right, exactly.
I
Our
don't
job is to
disagree.
get the facts on the table. You can't tell us we
Yeah.
don't
Well,
need
you
to
asked
look
the
at the
action deadline,
documents, so.
and this is what I can agree to. And what I've
I
done
think
is
you have to
crafted it so
postpone.
that if the town wants to step up, they can do it.
Could we extend it and get a determination from the town?
I wouldn't be agreeable to that. God knows how long that'll take.
So what are our options here? I mean, I feel like we're being pushed into a corner.
Well, it's not me.
Well, I think we have to have a discussion with the town, the
Well,
land
I'm
management.
pretty sure, Mark, am I mistaken? Did he threaten a lawsuit?
I'm sorry.
Did he threaten a lawsuit?
I said you're at the action deadline. I expect you
I
to do
actually-
what you're done, what the state
Well,
code.
how about an
requires you to do.
extension and
No,
time
No,
to?
no, because what that does, I've been trying to get this approval for months now so that I can continuing the funding process. And what I find a little bit rich is the fact that I have purposely drafted this resolution to allow a situation where the town could provide the full amount of funding, but you're putting it all back on me. Lobby the town. I think a sense of the board to the town.
John,
Draft a
would you-
resolution.
Your point is well taken, by the way. Page 10, Section G specifically. But since you brought it up, I think a prerequisite for the board would be to consider the conditions you're referring to and actually see them themselves. Would you provide the grant paperwork, since it's highly relevant to their decision?
The grant paperwork changes from day to day to day. One of these things, remarkable things these firms do, is that they essentially are able to cobble together all different sources. So I mean, it's literally a house of cards. Not a house of cards. Not a house. It's
a moving target.
It's a moving target.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
why
I've
I can't agree to this
I've
stuff.
never seen a municipal grant. Well, we don't, my opinion is that we want it to happen. We should be working with you, the town should be working with you.
No one's saying we won't.
But I don't know what we can do here.
I mean, I've given you the
I know
ability.
I know you have, but we are minus information. I mean, we don't know what these grants say. And if you say they change from day to day and time to time, which is strange, I've not really heard of
Yeah, I mean,
grants
this
like
is
that.
not insurmountable or
Yeah.
unprecedented. There's decades and decades of now, land preservation deals that are, town, county money, private money, all cobbled together. And that needs to be, there needs to be a plan that's transparent to us that shows that.
Right.
This is what I can agree to. And I think I thought long and hard of it and left the door open for the town to affirmatively come up and do what they have to do, and I'm a little bit chagrined that that isn't appreciated, to be very honest with you. That's why the mix of income shall be low, moderate, median, and middle as restricted pursuant to grants or subsidies from the federal government, state of New York, or other municipal agencies. That's why we took so much time putting that in there. Because it opens the door for the town to fully fund these 16 units. And I can't do any more.
So it's really the percentage number. I mean, it's having the 80 to 130. That's really the crux of this.
Yeah, I mean, Janice,
The
and
language
again,
is very
it's very
similar.
difficult for me because Janice, I agree with her, understandably wants it towards the higher. I understand that. As a town resident, I get it.
But she can.
So
I
is
get
the-
it, but
under the current model, are all 80 units, 79 units fully funded by grants from the government?
I don't know the answer to that question. But I need the flexibility. The state and federal government push towards the lower percentage.
No,
And I
understand
understand the
that.
town policy.
But yeah,
I
we talk
support
about
it.
funding and about the town stepping up to fully fund 16 units
Yeah, they
because
can do
they
it.
want, but are the other agencies fully funding 62 units? That's what I want to know. Why it seems it's all over the place,
Yeah, I mean,
If
that
the
should be a
town-
simple question, I think.
Okay, well,
but nobody seems to have the answer.
And I will say, again, from my much different category,
Mhm.
but my experience with grants and subsidies is that they can change from one year to another year to, different administrations can have different policies.
well, that would speak in favor of our language then, because remember, these are rental units. They're not.
Right.
They're not sale units. I'd be more concerned about that if they were sale units. But
So, but
Again, the
what you are
percentage-
saying is, as of today, you have absolutely no, or the builders have absolutely, or the developers have absolutely no funding in place.
I've been told by the people who are in charge of the project. Remember, I'm the land use lawyer.
Mhm.
I've been told by the people in charge of this project that the funding applications don't become complete until such time as there is a site plan approval. That's why we were one of the.
Janice is here.
Yeah, I understand. And by the way, I understand and fully support from a policy point of view what Janice wants to do. But
You don't have to if you don't want to.
That still doesn't resolve our issue because we're minus information. So let me just try to capture what we've said. We haven't seen the funding requirements, which change from day to day, which makes a task almost impossible, right? The second observation is that it's a town board issue based on their code. The third is that, is it possible for these 16 units to be a partner in the funding, with this developer, and the other units go the way they've been going? So, we don't know where we are, Janice, help.
Okay. She saw.
So it's my
Have
understanding,
you
so
seen-
originally we said, okay, for the whole zone change, and I'm sorry I'm jumping in, so I don't know what
That's
you've
okay.
discussed. I
This
came
is-
up here for my sand mine.
Oh, God. Here,
Referral.
this is John's recommendation.
Oh, thank you. So I understand that this is
his.
that's mine.
It's John's.
And just if I may,
Changes.
just,
And that was
the
And this
whole-
is mine.
The whole
Okay.
idea of this, particularly small 2, is to allow the flexibility. For example, if the town wants to fund in full the 16 units, the mix of eligible housing shall be low, moderate, median, and middle, as restricted pursuant to grants or subsidies from the federal government, state of New York, or other municipal agencies.
This is John's language.
What we're
This is what I'm
Trying
trying
to
to do
put
is
flexibility.
alleviate the flexibility, knowing that all the other funding, unfortunately, is pushes towards that 80%. Janice, I want to say it's a very difficult position for me as a town resident because from a policy point of view, I fully understand what you're trying to do and I agree with it. I do. But the funding sources don't let me do that. And the town law says that when the funding sources have different requirements, those funding sources shall prevail. So what I tried to do is to draft into this the flexibility for some of the units to be totally funded by the town. So if the town wants to step up, great.
What the language does do, what we're concerned about is that it basically gives them the authority without town funding or some other source of funding to move forward the way they want to move with the 80%.
But it also gives the
And that's a
town the
concern.
ability to step up.
And the
You
other
keep on
concern
forgetting
is
that other
that
side of
we
it.
don't have full information about the funding sources. He doesn't have it either, about what are the funding sources and what the requirements are.
And
of
we're
those
at action
funding
deadline,
sources.
which I've extended many times. So if
So,
you wanted that information,
One
Can we let-
second.
Don't get dramatic.
May I just say this? So the application at the zone change level was considered at a higher, elected consider was 104 units through a lot of, time and effort on the part of council people, speaking to the community, et cetera. They settled down to 79 units. Of the 79 units, the set aside is always in a zone change. So let's just pretend that they weren't doing 100% affordable. The set aside is 20%. And that comes to the town, and we don't set the thresholds. We see what happens in the lot. There's a lot of flexibility when we take them in. In this case, their funding is for the full 79 at the tax credit level, the 9% tax credit, and they're saying they can't separate it out. We're simply saying initially, like to say the town should now pay for the thing that we're supposed to get as the set aside, I take exception to, only because then why did we get 79 units? Because we did the 20% set aside. So I don't want to like double dip on that. And we're also buying property with CPF, so there's some other funding sources there. So that's a little funky, but I understand their issue because they're saying but they're not fully financed yet by that state.
No, that's what John
either.
said, yeah.
The state is waiting, and so is the county, to see what we do. So we were trying to say, give us the 16, you go fund the rest of them through the county and state, and
That's
we'll
what we
use
said.
invoke
Mhm.
216K or whatever that provision was, that we can
Yeah.
go along with whatever those are. But we were trying to keep hold of the 16
Yeah.
into the town's discretion. My understanding is that they're saying you can't do that because they won't be able to build any of them if we do that. So we're at an impasse in that case. But I don't think we should now, for them to say, well, you could pay for them, they were owed to us. I don't want to pay for something I already got. That's like saying you get 20% set aside of open space and now the town could buy that with CPF. We're not
That's-
buying what's
There's no
already
condition
free.
on the zone change with that. There's no condition on the zone change.
That's what I was trying to figure out, why he was stressing with every statement, and that the town fully pay for these 16 units. And I was asking, are the other 62 units fully paid for by the grants you're getting? And you didn't have an answer to that. because
We
you didn't
could
know.
put money in toward the other 62
But you
as
can
well.
you can contribute towards it, not that fully pay for it.
Well, this leaves the option open for that. That's what I'm trying to do.
But you kept insisting that it must be
Perpetuity
fully
is
paid by.
part of
commitment
our
from the
chapter
town.
216.
I don't have any
The 16
Nobody's
commitment.
arguing with that. I think they agree to the perpetuity
It's
and the
the
50 years.
threshold.
It's-
And then the
threshold.
income threshold,
That's
I
the only
don't
issue.
know how to rectify that, because we're just saying, hey, if we got somebody in the lottery for 80%, that would be fabulous. If somebody came in at 100%, we want to have that flexibility inherent to be able to have that and have a larger mix of income potential. You don't want to just create one whole very low income development plan. You want to have a range of income levels living in
You want the
unity,
diversity,
right?
yeah.
The diversity,
Yeah.
and you know that, and you've done that many
Yeah.
times where you
Right.
don't make it obvious which ones are the lower income ones or
Right.
the middle income ones.
We
It's all
disperse
just there.
Disperse it through the
So I
development.
don't, I'm hearing like, oh, we're hearing it's Janice is telling us we have to do it this way. I'm just saying, I just know what we're set aside from the zone change is 16 units. And I'm not, sure how that is going to play out. We're just trying to figure that out, and maybe they should come back to the town board and
That's what we're saying.
facilitate that.
I'm not going
But
back to
I'm
town board. I have a
happy
zone
to-
change without the conditions that deal with this. I'm not going back there. You can't force me back there. I'm not going back there. I'm not gonna go
So-
back to the town board. My gosh, this was not dealt with as a condition in the town zone change application. I mean, maybe it should have been, but
It
we
says
are where we are.
pursuant to chapter 260.
Which says, at the very end, if there
216
are,
are those little,
which says at the very end, the instances where the conditions of any federal grant, state, or county regulations require eligibility priorities and restrictions different from the restrictions set forth in this chapter, the town shall, not may.
But we don't know
but
those.
shall
We don't know
accept
those
some.
money restrictions because you said you
But
don't know
if
where the
those-
funding's
but
coming
if
from.
they are,
Well, we need to
section-
know
but
that.
if, no,
Don't
you
we
don't,
need to know
because
that?
if they are, you have to accept them.
Well, we
Plain
don't
and
know.
simple.
We can't make a
Doesn't
decision
matter.
because
If
we
they
have no
are,
idea where the
you
funding
have-
is coming
It
from.
doesn't matter, David, if they are, you have to accept them. I'm just telling you the law that your own legislature
You're asking
wrote.
us to make a
But it
decision without
says
information.
Where a unit reserved for low, moderate, or middle is restricted pursuant to a grant or subsidy, the town may accept such restrictions. So there's a shall in one
It doesn't
section
say
and a
that.
may in another.
Which
yeah,
section
John
are you-
K.
reference that, yeah.
Under
So,
5K.
it's, you know,
216,
I'm not
5K.
trying to say, we certainly, you know, have helped
Right.
this application get this far. Not trying to torpedo it now.
No,
The point is to just try to get what we normally get. It's a little different because they were like, oh, it's 100% affordable, you don't have to worry about anything, but we don't wanna necessarily lose anything that we were going to.
I don't know that you were going to have anything, Janice, because the town didn't put that in any condition. And you can argue that they should have, and I that's a very valid argument. But as we sit here right now, there is no condition in the zone change.
Because of the 100% affordability.
Yes, absolutely.
So with this.
And
kind of-
again, I'm trying to make it so that there's enough flexibility in here, at the same time, not put myself into a death spiral because I
Are we-
can't get the
Are we
the funding.
100% clear, John, that the state, because of the tax credits for this particular application, you can't exceed 80% AMI?
That's what we've been told by John Schneider, the folks you've spoken to, and Janice has spoken to, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to confirm. I mean, your language actually gives us a little wiggle room. If
That's what I'm
if
trying
that
to do.
80% doesn't apply,
Yeah, that's what I'm
then
trying
we
to
may be
do.
able to apply the 100%.
But at
very
the very
frustrating.
least, your
But maybe we
language
could-
gives us a 20% set aside for in perpetuity.
In
That's
perpetuity.
right,
Well,
that's
yeah.
the most important
But
thing.
the
And
most-
the thresholds are
You
something
may
we're
end up with
arguing about.
80% as a default.
Right.
Unless
Which
you can
you've
look
got
at
the
some.
income qualifications for
Yeah.
that.
We're okay with the 16 in perpetuity, that's settled, right? We're not-
That's, I don't care about that, I think
It's
that's
just the
fine.
income level.
Yeah, it's the income.
There was
Right,
another-
and time goes by,
And to be honest with
80%.
you, I've gotta be honest with you, we're agreeing with that despite the fact that I don't see anything in, presumably this funding would come from the community housing fund. I don't see anything in that law that specifically says it has to be in perpetuity.
That's
I
another
don't wanna have that
discussion.
argument here, that gets political,
that's-
but we conceded that.
Now, there's another sentence from.
There's
It's
in
K.
216 is
K.
in
John?
perpetuity.
No,
There's
no,
a-
in the, well,
There was another sentence from Claire's report, which is not addressed, it was just omitted from your language, where it talks about those 16 units to be administered by the housing authority.
Housing director.
Housing
Housing
director,
director.
sorry.
I think the whole shebang is, isn't it? No?
We usually contract out to like CDC Long
Okay.
Island or something along those lines. But we're just saying those 16 are in our kind of control.
Yeah.
And the rest are in theirs, but they do have to follow all the protocols.
Right.
I'm just asking that language should be added to your small I, in your
Yeah.
comment.
So it's clear.
So it's clear.
So are we getting closer here?
I think
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're saying it
And as
should be
long
fine.
as you have the perpetuity, as long as you have the set aside for us, and I guess over time that 80% number will get higher and higher with income.
But you have an issue now, and you both walked in after I said this, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
want to
sorry,
say
yeah.
it again. The issue at hand here is that government is funding low income housing. We need working professional housing.
That's what my
That's-
point was.
You know,
I
what
we
are
all
we
agree
gonna
with
do
that,
here?
Well, the town
Sorry
voted.
if for 16 units, it's not gonna be
Township.
funded, but I don't think this client is gonna be crying poor to
No,
set
don't,
aside.
don't count other people's money. And
16
don't count
units.
funding sources, and don't. I don't
That
think that's
was
a good
my
thing
point
to do.
entirely, Kate, was just that, you know, the diversity of income types and to be able to have the availability for, say, a young professional or, you know, it for two working professionals who make more than 100,000, they're out.
Right.
Yep.
So that doesn't really
Talk to the state.
necessarily
Talk
work
to the federal
for.
government.
So the issue still is, as Kate said, the bottom line is if we agree to what they're saying, proposed language now, is they're likely to build this unless you give them the money for the housing, which you feel you shouldn't because you've already given them. This is your
Gave you the
part,
extra
right.
density.
So without that, they're
Right.
pretty much gonna be limited to 80%, even though we don't know where the funding's coming from yet. But they're saying most of the funding is limited to 80% for now.
David, you're
We do
assuming
know
a
where the
lot on
funding
the
is
actions
coming
of the
from.
potential actions of the town board. You're assuming that the town board is not going to step up, and I don't think that's a fair
I'm not
assuming.
assuming, I'm just listening to what Janice
Okay.
said, that the,
Janice
right
is
now,
the
the
town
only
board.
option
I am not the
is,
town board. but
right, the only
but
option is for the town to put the money in, unless they can find another source that would allow the income level to go to 130.
So are you saying, but I thought if you can't turn, you have to go back to the county and the state and say, here's what we have. Here's our approvals, here's our funding as far as what the town is putting in, and then
Well, the town's
they're
putting in
going
nothing
to,
now.
the town is,
And
No,
Janet,
that's
if I
what I
may,
was
the
trying to
town,
tell you,
the
that-
town buying the open space was a negotiation because the number of units were reduced so much below what pro rata the town had approved on other projects. That was a part of a negotiation.
that
You had
wasn't
a
part
much-
of the negotiation, but I've never seen that before. But let's not even talk about that
But
right
it
now. Let's
was.
get back to this. And that is, you're gonna have to go back to the state and say, here's everything that we got from the, you know. And we're saying we shouldn't be, or I'm saying, and I'm not a policymaker, so that's why I said go back to the town board, but that why are we paying for something that was set aside? You got 79 units, 16 of them get set aside. If all of those other ones were market rate, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because they would have to get a loan from a bank and build the 63 units on their own, and we'd get our affordable ones and we'd decide on the thresholds.
But
Yeah, and
but-
those would be market. What are you talking about? Those would be market
Sure,
rate
but I'm
units. I
trying to
mean, my
equate
God,
this-
that wouldn't go anywhere towards.
I mean, isn't the
affordable
CHF
housing.
funding is for the infrastructure, part of the infrastructure cost for the project as a whole?
Sure, we're also
We're playing a little semantics by saying 60, it's for the 16 units, but it's really for the 79 units.
Well,
That
here
did
we are.
not
We're
say
really,
anything
we're an action
related to
deadline.
that.
I think this, again, you were here,
Really?
you didn't hear me say this, but I think between Bailey and I, we really very nicely drafted this to give the required amount of flexibility if the town wants to step up. And I think, I think you should approve this language.
But John is not saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's not saying that if you get your 16 set aside with no upgrade to the earning of the thing, that we're gonna have to, the town has to pay for that. I think what he's suggesting is that if the town wants to very kind of put money in towards
They want to put
the
their money
16
where their
units,
mouth is,
and
yes.
I don't agree with having to fully fund 16 units, but as a grant to make it separate from the other 60 units, they can do that.
So you can
Also
go-
accept the 16 units with the 80% AMI.
Either one.
you know, I, again, I'm not a policymaker here, but my only understanding is that no matter what it's set aside, is the set aside because you got the density bonus. Not now when
Can't
put your
double
money
dip.
where your mouth is.
Yeah.
We got
But you're getting
this
that,
much
right?
density to
You're
get
getting
this much
16
set
units.
aside. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And then
Getting
now we're
16
arguing over who gets to qualify to live there in these 16 units.
That's
They're
the issue.
saying the same people as everywhere else, up to 80% of income. For one single person, it's 87,000. For a family, like a couple, you can only make 100,000. We were trying to say that's not really a lot, so we wanted it to go up to
And-
130%, because then that way you can make two
And
professionals,
we all
married
agree with
couple, can make some more money and live there too.
But the
But
town,
that's not what they got the tax credit financing for.
but the
so
legislature,
they-
the
so it
town
doesn't work.
legislature, in its understanding all this and in its wisdom, states that where the restrictions are different from set forth in this chapter, the town shall. It's not precatory, which means may. The town shall accept same. And again, I find myself very frustrated because I agree with the policy, but there are funding sources that don't allow me that flexibility. So I tried to graft into this resolution enough flexibility to allow that. So I would like to ask for a vote on my language, unless, of course, Claire has other things to talk about with
Do we
the.
know the
I
status
definitely
of the,
have
do we
questions.
know the status of the tax credit award? Do we know that?
No.
That's the same?
No, that's
So
what
it's
we've
still
been
a-
asking.
Well, I
It's in
can't,
ether
the
somewhere.
people
Any
at,
information.
Schneiderman and his his
John Schneider.
colleague,
We need to get some information.
these applications aren't even complete, so
Right.
we have the site plan
Yeah.
approval.
Funding.
Right. And I don't think this, I mean, the state will be taking up this tax credit application along with many others.
No,
throughout the state,
no.
so.
And it's a rolling sort of
Yeah.
process. That's the other thing why I can't be specific about it, because I can't get to square one on this stuff until I have a site plan approval.
And is the subdivision been approved already?
Yes. Well, just
No.
the pre
No, just the
yeah.
pre-app,
Just
just the
the pre-app.
pre-app.
And the
How
CHF
are you
funding
at
is,
action deadline in this?
This is
Secret
this is finding statement.
Oh,
This is findings, right? Secret.
Secret findings,
So
yeah.
it's secret.
Secret findings. No, but that's true. I mean, are we looking at the secret findings related to the?
It's been, from the very get-go, it's been said, time and time and time and time again, that you are going to adopt, you even put it in writing, you're going to adopt the town board findings for your secret findings.
That was given our recommendation.
So are we at an impasse here?
And Claire, did you say there are other issues that we need to talk about?
Yeah. This is
So are they,
What? Well, the 16 units are the issue. And I think what we were saying is just to carve them out of this funding that he's trying to get from the state for the 50, whatever the balance is, 59.
63.
And would that facilitate some motion here to do that? I don't know. You know, we are not the town board, and as I said before, this is not our issue. This is a town board issue.
Yeah, no, in
I
my
just-
recollection,
Not a
when
planning
the,
board
when the
issue.
town board approved it, they did not, it wasn't carving out, I know Janice, there wasn't it was approval for ultimately 79 affordable units.
That's right.
That's the,
That's right.
the CHF funding, is it for the county matching infrastructure funds? Is that what they,
I
there's nothing
don't
more
know,
than
Jim.
that,
I
that's
don't
what
know
they're
the
looking for,
answer to
right? It's 2.5 or
I
whatever it is?
believe they're also looking for more quality funding for the sewage treatment. But I'm not sure about that either. Do we have like any of that?
I mean, it's, right, I mean, we don't have information
Don't
to
have
be
any of
able
Water
to.
quality from the county?
From the town, maybe the county has, they also have a water quality fund. So, I don't know.
Never saw.
But you guys are not the ones seeking the funding, it's the developer who's looking for the funding, right? And then says to you, we have it, we don't have it, we're negotiating.
Well, Jim says, I think, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, I can't even make the funding applications complete until I have the site plan approval. That's why, I remember, the
The state
client asked me
funding.
back in October, do you think we'll have it by October, because we're gonna miss the round of funding, and I said, I don't think so, and I was,
Yeah. But they haven't guaranteed you a certain amount of money. I mean,
No.
you're going
No.
after a grant, there's no
No. That's
fixed
the need for the
amount.
flexibility.
and is there, I would assume there's always an option to submit it with the 16, knowing that the 16 apartments might go up to 130% and see
I'm
what the
being
state
told
and
that
county
that's-
people.
I'm being told that that's not possible because that the state and federal fundings, I'm being told, did not account for that. Do not
Are you,
account for
so
that.
whoever's telling you is saying that the state and federal will never allow it to go beyond 80?
I'm being told that, yes.
I mean, we can
Do you-
look up the
We need to
RFP
see
for
that,
that.
yeah.
The state is
double
very
check that?
rigorous on.
Yeah.
They probably would
Putting
for
out
certain
guidelines.
tax credit financing for, and
Yeah.
for low to mod housing.
let's say.
Period.
Right, but you
Period.
can fund a
And-
portion of your project
yeah,
with
yeah.
state funding. It's not all
And
or
also,
nothing.
under those, I would guess if you gave them a 16-unit bonus for the zone, for the density, or let's say 16 apartment bonus, that the funding they should apply for there may be levels of funding. In other words, you're going to get less tax credit if you do this for the 16. So it doesn't mean the whole project is dead. It just means less tax credit for these. And that may be something
They're
that's
saying
good
the whole
packaged together.
project is dead, but I understand the conundrum, and we're not trying to make it difficult. We're just trying to make it so that
Works for the
it's a
town.
little more fair
For 80
and
to
it's
130,
more
yeah.
diverse as
Yeah.
far as the income levels
Right.
go. But if
But I
that's
think-
not something, I mean, you know,
We all
Right,
agree
we all
with that.
it. And I think,
But it's
to
a
be-
question, how do we get, let's
Yes.
say, how do we get there?
Yeah.
This is
I
what we
think-
want, we're all in
I think
agreement.
we're all
That,
should
that,
be
that,
saying
that set
this-
aside, those 16 units should be for the young professionals who live here and need to live here. And even John agrees, but how do we get
Yeah,
there?
well,
What's the mechanism?
agreed
He
from,
tried
I
to
agreed
write-
from a policy point of view, but it's not from the strictures. of
Well,
law.
it's not, the mechanism is not supporting that action.
Simply not.
So how do we get around that?
We could adopt his language, but I would recommend we add that it be administered by the housing
Yes,
district.
that, plus there's also no comment in here about the mix of units that you're getting. You're gonna get 16 one-bedroom units, so, you know, it should be a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units, which is not addressed in
Yes,
this.
it definitely has
It's
to be.
addressed in yours.
Yep.
Right.
That's
As
in
well-
the code.
So John's language, we could adopt
With two
with the
changes.
addition that, that it'd be administered by the housing, the
Director.
Southampton
Can you do
Town
So you
Housing
farm
Director?
it out.
The lottery for those 16 units only, is that what you're talking
yes.
No,
Yeah.
no.
about? Janice?
I'm sorry.
Are you talking about,
I can't do
is
the
Claire, you're referencing that the 16 units will be
The 16 units.
administered? Just those 16 for the
This-
lottery?
This
Or
this was clear.
I can't do that with either.
You
I've
can't
been
split
told,
them?
I've been told that, this is very difficult to say, but I've been told that by some of the funding, people that run some of the funding sources, is that lotteries which are restricted to certain classifications of people, such as in the town code,
Oh, yeah, clearly.
are,
No, I mean, we all know that
are
could be
discriminatory.
Well, it can't be, right. Most other towns and
you know,
other areas have, well,
What
we're
do-
not saying that here. We're not saying that.
We're just
We're-
saying
You're
the
just saying that the town
No,
will.
I've been here and done the lottery.
Have
where
flexibility.
they pull
We
the
usually
names and
use
then they
Long
go
Island
through
Housing
the list,
Partnership,
and
or
then,
something. It's
you
open
know,
to not just town residents, it has to be, we all
it's
understand that,
all,
under the Fair Housing Act, it has to be.
No, but I've been
So-
told by one of the administrators when I was dealing with another project and dipping my toe into this stuff,
You should take it
unfortunately,
out, John.
unfortunately,
Take your toe
that that these classifications of folks, you know, firemen and policemen and everything like that, in certain areas, if you limit it to that,
Oh,
it
yeah,
has
no,
a discriminatory
no,
effect.
Well, it could be. You're gonna face, more preferences that you have, the more scrutiny you're gonna face.
Yes.
I think a lot of this language in 216 is preference with the fact, the language that says.
It's sort of precatory.
As long as
isn't
it's
it?
legal, or
Yeah.
it's right,
Yeah.
doesn't most of the language say,
Yeah.
make a reference to the fact that it's.
Subject to
Yeah,
federal
subject
law.
to
See
federal
this
right.
language, how can we amend this so that we can move
No,
forward?
preferences are always gonna be scrutinized.
We want
by-
two
by the
things, that it
US
be
Attorney's
administered
Office.
by the Southampton
Fair
Town
housing.
Housing Administrator, and that the mix of the units in the 16 units set aside should be a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom,
And interspersed through the,
and interspersed through the
and
community.
that's right in the code.
Right.
But it
Now-
still doesn't allow for the up to 130%,
No, it
which
does
is
not.
the flexibility
No, it
that
does
we
not.
At the
were
end of the day,
desiring from the.
Your funding from the
I
state
don't know why I
allows
can't
for it,
submit
then
the application
we will put
to,
it.
Yes,
to the
I
funding
understand.
sources with this.
If it's
I'm-
available, if it allows for it, it allows for it. I'm not fighting that.
My understanding of tax credits is like a ranking system too. It's, you know, if you stay within a certain, you may actually get a couple of bonus points if it's lower for some reason, or, you know, there's all different location, there's a lot of different, things items that the state looks at when they're ranking applications for tax credits. That's how they look at it. And they may give a higher rating for low AMIs, but sometimes they might want to also give higher rankings for higher AMIs. It depends on on circumstances that
Could-
the state
could-
looks at.
Could you split the baby and have them do the funding for the 80%? But for those 16 units, the differential between the 80% and the 130, the town somehow or another guarantee that?
You can't do that
Can't
as
do
this
that?
board. This board can't do it.
Yeah.
But you can,
No,
That's
we
their
you can,
responsibility.
but you can,
I'm not,
Trying to
I
resolve
cannot
it.
No, I-
I'm not gonna tie this project to the actions of the town.
Should we carve out the 16
but
units?
you can submit an application for funding with all 79.
Literally carve it out.
Literally carve it out. Subdivide it out.
David, let me be very clear. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to tie this project to that sort of restriction. I am not going to do that. That's not acceptable at all. I am not going to tie this program to the whims of a government agency. I'm just not going to do it. I would be
Isn't it
foolish.
Well,
to
your
the whim of
funding
a
is-
different government?
What?
You're subject to the whims of the funding.
No. You know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not going to tie these 16 units to whether or not the town of Southampton steps up. It's not gonna. I can't do it.
Okay, so
What does that mean?
What do you,
Steps up.
what do you mean steps
That
up?
was a set
Steps up
aside.
to do the,
There was a
The lottery?
misfunding and all this
I
stuff
don't
in
know.
the 16 units.
This is like, it's not our concern about whether this works financially.
It-
Like, we have the rule, we have the code,
Everybody's
zone
forgetting
change
what I
and
put
the-
in here to try to.
the
There's no
guidance
reason
from
why
our
you
planning
can, there is no reason
flexibility.
why the application can't be submitted. Asking and seeing what the reaction is, as you said, it may give different points and different penalties, but is submitting with 16 departments at a higher level of workforce housing, which the state and county, by the way, are very sensitive to as well.
I'm not going to do it.
So-
This is why I had in here the mix of income eligible housing shall be low, moderate, median, and middle, as restricted pursuant to grants or subsidies of the federal government, state of New York,
What's the date?
or other municipal agencies.
You know-
Obviously, the town of Southampton.
You know,
But where
John,
are
you
the
know
other
how your
municipal
client was going
agents?
to,
November 28th, 2023.
you know how your client was going to market, like the lottery? You know, do you have an understanding of how they were going to do
No,
it?
I don't. Jim, I don't want to
No,
represent
no.
anything that I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
You're here for the, you're playing.
John, can I just ask this, in number 2 in the draft the town did, it talks about 30 to 50% AMI range, 50% of the units shall be above the.
Yeah, that's what I can't agree to. That's what I can't agree to.
Right, that's,
Can't agree.
that's,
Over the
that's why it's
80s.
not in your version.
Well,
Right.
that's why it's not my
I
version.
mean, I'm,
But we agreed to its in perpetuity.
For the 16.
So John,
That's good. I mean, you had to.
Yeah.
It was in the code.
so John, when you presented to the town board for the zone change, right?
None of this was discussed.
No.
It was just 100% affordable, as Jim said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, that's going to expire, the
What's gonna
zone
expire?
change, right?
It's 50 years
No,
for
no,
the
no.
86.
No,
No,
June, we have to ask.
June. June.
in
What's-
June,
in
you have
June.
to,
There's extensions available
There's
then.
extensions available, but
Ah.
of June. It'll
Right.
expire in June, but if I get further on, I'm not gonna have to worry about that.
well,
It's a
We have
long,
to-
long haul for someone who's providing affordable housing, which is the other thing that you cannot forget.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Listen, it's
and
something we all
This
want,
is
John.
78 units of workforce housing in the
Yeah.
town of Southampton.
It's not something
which-
that we're opposed to.
I think the finding statement was adopted November 28th, 2023, here by the town board. And the picture changed significantly in 2024 when all this new housing funding is being directed by the state. And so I don't feel comfortable adopting the town board secret finding statement because there is additional information and some disconnect between what was adopted and what the picture is now in terms of funding, which is highlighted very clearly in this situation. So
And
I
we're at
think
that stage now, right
that's
now.
the,
it's
what's
seeker,
our decision
adopt
is on the
seeker.
finding statement.
So-
There's other information we have to,
How do we
include.
handle that time-wise? Suppose we want to modify some of the findings.
I mean,
You
there's
know,
a lot.
that's
That
really where
document
it's
Is quite extensive. So,
well, but connecting the dots on new housing funding and what was adopted then and the 16 set aside and stitching that all together is an important piece of the findings.
Yeah.
And we haven't found anything but questions today, to my mind.
So where in that, is that on page 10 something or another in the finding statement?
I'm looking now.
Oh, it's not, because it's totally different.
What are we looking at right now?
We're looking at the finding statement. The
You need a
town,
copy?
the town board adopted this.
Yeah, do you have an extra?
It's our job to review the finding statement, and if we have questions, we have questions. And we have questions, obviously. Fairly vague, I think we can. These are the secret.
So you have to say that you've read these findings and that you are agreeing with them and adopting them as your own, because you're an involved agency that
Correct.
now has to give approvals for
Right.
the
Right.
subdivision
Well-
and site plan.
But we have some questions about that, right?
I don't know if it's-
Or,
You don't have any information from the state as far as what is the, they said, from the beginning, we always said it was low mod, it's low mod. And we understand that, but now we're getting into the nitty gritty. We're kinda like, wait, ours are low mod too, the set aside, you get to control the set aside? And that's where we
That's
never
the
understood that
disconnect, yeah.
before, because we've never had that before.
Yeah.
Where someone is saying, oh, even the set aside has to be what we want it to be. Because normally it's market rate, and then we get the set aside, and we figure out what the thresholds are gonna be based on whatever.
yeah,
And now they're saying, this is all ours, and this too. And we're controlling that low mod section, we're saying this all has to be low mod, even the set aside that the town gets. And that's the disconnect only, everything else is fine. It's just that that's unusual, at least to me, who's been doing this fairly for a while.
and for funding.
And for, just in terms of, you made an application, and now you're restricting the set aside, and I guess that's fine, because we still are getting affordable, at the end of the day, we're still getting affordable housing. We're just saying, their funding for, they should be applying for state funding for the 63 units. They could get, and the fact that they're applying for the whole 79 or whatever, they're restricting what would normally come to us unrestricted.
Right,
That's
and that
the
was already
issue here.
negotiated.
No, it
To
wasn't.
increase density
No,
for
it
the
wasn't.
16
Yeah,
set
It was
aside.
part of a condition.
I mean, that's a little, I don't know that there was a increased density per se. There was a number that was reached at 79. It wasn't,
There was an increased density from the as of right, for sure.
well, yeah, but,
It was
That
CR
was with the
40
change.
zoning,
right.
so there was you couldn't subdivide and get 79 house lots.
Yeah,
No,
but-
no, no,
Zone
I
change
understand
to
that.
get
But they're
increased density,
affordable.
and the set aside in MFPRD is 20%.
They're affordable.
That is 16 units. Yes, they're affordable.
Yeah.
I 100%
So, and,
agree with you.
and you,
It's just that now you're saying, but this is all tied together. You can't divorce this from that, which I can appreciate.
it's like no good deed goes unpunished. They're creating
Oh,
affordable units where the
But-
town of Southampton is not creating
But
any.
your hands are tied because of the funding
Mhm.
requirement.
So
Maybe
don't
we haven't
really
seen
know that.
evidence
We
of
haven't
that.
really
seen
know
any of
that.
the
Well, they
funding
haven't
documents.
actually
We don't
given
really
them the
know
funding yet. They've been like holding it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to HCR a few
Yeah.
times over the years that this has been going on,
Yeah.
and they're kind of hanging on, waiting. But they haven't been out.
Who's HCR?
Homes and
Community
community renewal.
State
It's a
agency.
state agency.
Okay.
They're the ones that
Not
are
the
providing
not
tax
the
credits.
developer.
Is there
that's-
federal money coming in, do we know?
Probably is federal money from,
Feds
funneled through the state.
Through the state, yeah,
Federal gives it to state, and then
Yeah.
state distributes it.
It's likely.
But they get more money. Well,
The lower limit.
if they have, if you include like supportive housing or lower income housing, then per unit, the state gives you like increases.
So
Right,
it's really
so-
about the level of funding. It's not that you can't get any funding. It's something you get more funding and more tax breaks if they control all 79.
And the
Which means
project
it-
has to make sense, though,
Yes,
David.
it does. It does.
It's
but
not
it
like
doesn't
we
mean it
beat
doesn't
up on
make
the
sense.
private developer.
Well,
We
the
don't
state has
know,
asked
which
for
is what I'm
significant
starting
amount
to
of
hear from you,
information
David.
In order to make that sense.
Right, we don't know if
they
it doesn't make sense until we get the information.
This is not an extraction process. This is supposed to be a good thing that the town, which is not creating any of their own workforce housing, is encouraging people to come in and do that, so that you don't get a federal judge, as I've said to many agencies, say, you guys haven't done enough as a municipality, you're gonna do it right here. And I don't understand why there isn't more appreciation of that. I simply don't. Maybe you don't know enough about how some of the case law has proceeded on municipal inaction about creating affordable housing and workforce housing.
But I don't think there's been inaction, John.
Oh, I think there's been an enormous inaction.
I think one of the.
I mean,
We're
you
asking for you to
took
share the
about
language of the
5 acre, 3
RFP
acre, 2
for
acre
your
zoning.
grant.
It's all
Really
it's-
trying to
So we
solve
can
the problem
comply with
rather
it.
than, yeah, I mean, just
Yeah,
why don't we,
what's the real problem?
why don't we
with
try to
affordable
solve the
housing
problem
has
by
been
checking out
3
how the
acre, 2
funding
acre,
can
and
really
5
work?
acre zoning that's nothing but exclusionary.
Why don't we try to find out what the funding would look like if you have the mix?
I have what I've
Can we
offered,
ask that in the findings
and
statement?
I've tried to create enough
Finding
flexibility in
statement is
here, and that's
just
where I am.
very general. You know, it talks about diversification of housing stock, including new affordable housing, multifamily. It's very, very general in terms of
Well, what we're-
affordable components.
Well, what we're looking for here is a bit of diversification in terms of the affordability. We're
Yeah.
looking at a higher level of income, small, I mean, it's not that much, for only 16 units, so it's a small percentage. For young professionals who need a place to live as well, it's affordable.
You're trying to move the top number one more step.
Yeah.
One more step. You know, the
And
one
that's
more
all
step
it is.
brings you to 80 to 1.
But John
130
is
to 1.
saying that they're not gonna give the funding
Well,
if
yeah,
we
and that's the
require that.
concern is that
And so
that's what
how,
I'm hearing too.
Which hasn't been validated.
We don't know
It's a
that.
concern that has not been validated.
He's just saying he's here. I'm not
I mean,
pulling this
that's
out of
what
whole
the
cloth.
applicant is saying. I mean, I haven't.
The applicant is saying that. We need to get the facts.
So that
I don't
would
know
be
that it's an
added
all or
to the
nothing,
finding
you know, like,
statement
Yeah.
as
don't-
new
If
information.
you don't qualify for the tax,
It's
if you
never,
lose
the state's
in the tax
interested in
credit
that.
review that you don't get anything.
Yeah,
But
and the state's interested as much as the town is in workforce housing as well as
That's
low
my
income
position.
housing.
You'll
So
do what-
therefore,
you'll do what you're gonna do.
why not let the state make the decision about the
state
funding?
make the decision?
About the mix of
What do you-
apartments and the funding.
Now,
Well,
coming-
they
obviously I'm
have
coming new
different
here, but-
funding
and it-
sources that
what do you need
go
today?
after.
You need
And
the
that
final
is
action
low,
deadline. I want a final
low,
approval.
mod,
Yeah.
category.
And I
Right.
drafted it to give the
That's
flexibility.
So go,
Adopt a
More
new
money.
findings
Yes.
for the
so you
Okay,
do a
can
mixed
we-
one.
Can we
Just-
modify
just
the
equal to-
finding
Not
statement?
subdivision or site plan. This is
Oh,
only,
it's not.
this is only
That's
secret.
their action today. is
That's
it not?
also site plan.
Right.
Action?
Oh, and so-
Yes.
That's the action deadline.
I mean,
And
I'd
John,
be,
you won't do a extension?
Nope.
And so they can deny it, you are aware.
I'm well aware of the deny, so go ahead. The town planning board is gonna deny a 78-unit affordable housing project.
When we had nothing to do with writing code.
Go ahead, Janice.
I'm
if
just
it
saying
had,
they could,
Go ahead.
they could, and say they don't have enough information.
Go ahead.
listen, if it would help, I mean, I'd be willing to adopt John's language here and staying in touch with the applicant as
Gives
well
them
as
That's
the
what I've
state.
been saying from the get-go.
Decision of the whole
What I've been
thing.
saying.
They're gonna have
And then
to
get a
because it's not
determination.
mine.
That's
and
right.
We'll
It's never
verify
gonna
through my
happen.
office,
Never
we'll
gonna get
verify
because he's
with
gonna be in trouble.
HCR that they're not gonna
So
get the
what-
tax
what
credits
are we
if
worried
it
about?
goes
You
above
turn it
80.
down
If
without
I hear that,
information.
then we'll have to stick with the 80. But maybe we'll hear something different.
Do you hear what Jim is saying?
Yeah,
Which is
I heard
essentially
him.
what I've been saying from the get-go.
I'm
Stay in touch
more than
with the
willing to do that, to stay on top of this application and HCR.
Well-
If it's a determination from HCR
And let's
that
face it, the applicant
qualify
is
for the
gonna
tax
need
credits
cooperation of the
with
town
with
throughout.
up to a ceiling of 130,
Right?
then we'll adopt.
I
130.
understand
You don't
that,
think I'm?
John, but, Jim, but how quickly will that be?
Well, I think we'll.
How
I mean,
quickly can you get the information?
Well, my one suggestion is adopt this language, and then I'll stay on top of it as the application goes on.
But would you
Because I
say-
don't think they're gonna make, I can check with HCO what the application process is, but the concern is that they may not get approval for the tax credits for months from now, might be.
Months.
So,
But
It's
what
not
you're
complete.
saying also is you'll stay on top of it, but if they decide that they're not going to let it go above 80%, the town is back to square one.
Back at 80.
79
right.
apartments
Yeah.
that only live at 80%, that's
That's right.
not in keeping
Right,
with the
that's
town
right.
asked for.
Yeah, no,
That's
we'll-
right.
I
So-
think, right, we'd have to, right, I think the board would have to be agreed to that the highest you go, if they cannot qualify for tax credits by going higher than 80, then the board will agree at the 80%.
But you're
will be
putting the
ceiling number.
interests of the applicant before the interests of the town right now.
The interest of the town should be to provide workforce housing
And-
and affordable housing.
To the appropriate mix that's needed in the community.
And the applicant shouldn't really
And
dictate
have the
what the town
flexibility
wants
to do
do.
that, which is
I'm
what
not
was
dictating
recommended
it.
by our planning
This
director.
You are
is with the
dictating.
federal and the state government
You are trying to
that provides
dictate.
the lion's share of this funding.
It's your beef with the state government.
No,
We're
it's
saying
your
these are
beef
the
with this.
rules.
No, it's not. It's
If
your
go
beef
and
with the
apply
state
for the
government.
64,
It's,
and
it's
that's
actually I
grant
keep,
money
I don't
to get the project
understand
funded.
why you don't under. I've read this to you on numerous occasions. In instances where conditions of any grant or federal, state, or county regulations require eligibility priorities different from the restrictions, the
table it
town
and
shall
do it later?
accept
In an hour,
same.
we're gonna
Why
get everybody
are we
else
arguing
out of
about
here.
this?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
put this
After
in
4
there.
o'clock, right?
If you have a problem with this, talk to the town board. Maybe they shouldn't have put this in there.
Okay, I'm recommending we table this for an hour, we'll get everybody else
Yeah, we have to,
And,
I have
we'll bring
to,
this
I
up.
have, I'm supposed to be at a hearing in Sag Harbor 10 minutes ago. Thank you. Why are we tabling this for an hour? Everybody else has things to do.
we've been on for an hour and a half.
Discussion, and then we're gonna discuss this in an hour for another hour, so. That's what we're gonna do.
All you have to do is go.
I mean, for the diversity, there is, even from the 30 to 80, there is still quite a bit of diversity, economic diversity.
Right, good.
I'm just looking at
John, before we table this,
You know, it ranges from
if you're
one
not-
person, about 45,000 to up to 87,000 in that 30 to 80%. So that's a pretty wide diversity. The only thing
The
we'd be
second
losing.
number is for 2 people, right? The second number is
No,
for 2
people.
people.
Yeah, I don't have the 40 and 30.
I have this
I
whole
have the
thing.
50 and
Is this,
80.
is this what you need?
Yeah.
I've got that.
Right here.
It's right here.
100,000 is for
John,
family.
John,
So
John,
you
are you-
and your husband made,
would you be
60,
amenable to
you can't-
amending
You can't
your
have it, 'cause you're over, right.
first condition, BI, to
That's
add
crazy.
the language that the units those 16 units shall be administered
By the housing
by
authority.
the housing director,
Southampton
Housing
Town
director.
Housing Director.
by the housing director,
I don't,
and a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments.
yes,
So you'd add that to that first
yeah,
condition.
we'll do that. I just can't
Okay,
agree
just want
to
a
the
clarification that
income levels.
Can't
because
commit
it's,
to
it
the
looks
top
like you may
level
not you
and-
may
yeah.
not be here when we reconvene in an hour. So I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I could, I don't have, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so are you hanging around or are you hanging
No,
around?
she's, Bailey has to go to West Hampton.
You're gonna go to West Hampton, okay.
I'm supposed to be in Sag Harbor right now.
Oh, so you were saying?
It's supposed to be next Wednesday session.
All right, let's get through this.
I thought you were leaving.
Get through this. So we're just going to,
The other
postpone this.
24 things.
Can we do the other, at least can we do the other aspects
done.
of this, project that Claire has issues with?
I don't recommend that right now.
Okay, yeah, because that could take some time too.
Can
So
I get
just,
some professional, courtesy here? I've gotta be somewhere, and this,
Anthony, you wanna go?
Yeah, I just,
Is there a mechanism
Brenda's got
for
a
us
sick
to
child that she's gotta get to
revise
pick up,
it
so I'm gonna let her do her stuff first.
revise it?
What, number 10, Brenna?
Denying the application.
Is anything off the agenda? Nothing is off the agenda.
Oh, yes, one of mine is off.
Which one?
I think number 23. The second Vanderbilt, maybe? Yes, number 23, the second Vanderbilt.
Okay, 23 is off.
But we have Janice go. She's the one who do sand mines, so you want to
Do you want me to take it off, the sand mine thing?
Yeah.
I can bring it back.
Yeah. Because we need,
It's all right.
we need
I
some,
really think this guy is to ram run. He's trying to ram run this.
I'll have some resolution with this. Okay, Brenna?
Thank you.
7080 Scuttle Hole Road.
I'm just pulling it up here.
What number?
Number 10.
Put the maps out. Thank you for doing that.
Hi. Okay, if I sit here with you.
Oh, yeah.
This is the two proposed mixed uses on 70 and 80 Scuttle Hole Road.
That triangular property.
Yeah, I can get it up there. That triangular slit on Scuttle Hole just before the railroad track. I have. So we're at
Anthony,
the-
can you pull up on this application,
No, it's
please?
up.
Oh, it's up, okay,
Yeah.
it's up.
There's the church and these are copies for everybody. This is the draft pre-submission conference report, and we're under action deadline to adopt this today.
Okay. So why don't you start, and let me have your name for the record, please?
Brant Reiner from Nelson Pope and Board. He's here on behalf of the applicant.
So this is, the proposal is for two lots to be developed at the same time simultaneously. And there are two mixed-use, two-story structures with a 3,000 square foot footprint. I did include a little map if you want to follow, but I have the large map out here. I'm calling the more rectilinear lot is lot 70, closest to Montauk Highway. I also call that lot 1. And then lot 2 is the number 80. So lot 1 measures 22,420 square feet, and lot 2 measures 20,000 square feet. The number 70 has an existing residence on the property, which is proposed to be demolished. The proposed uses for the number 70 is an office use with one workforce housing unit on the second floor. And then lot 80 is an educational use with two workforce housing units on the second floor. And it's in the OD district, the office district rather. The applicant presented that the office will be occupied by Hampton Yards, and the educational use is a nonprofit, Hudson's Helping Hands for Autism, and then the workforce housing will be for Hampton Yards staff, affordable units for Hampton Yards staff. The planning board approved a subdivision in 2019 for these two lots, so it's subject to covenants and restrictions. And the conference, public pre-submission conference, was held on December 12th of 2024. There were no public comments received, but there were some letters received during the application. They were all in support of the project, in favor of the educational service and the affordable housing, the location. The church even agreed to, there was discussion about maybe sharing their parking spaces, and the church agreed to that in the letter. Items to be submitted, the site plan special exception application, site plans, elevations, floor plans, landscape plans, outdoor lighting plans, and any sound plans and engineering information, and a full EAF. And to get to the issues, some at the bottom of page 2, the first issue is zoning, zoning and use. The proposed office use and the educational use are both permitted in the OD district. The chief building inspector made a determination that the school or educational use is called under the SIC code. It's other schools and educational services, which is permitted.
Speak up a little.
The apartment is a special exception use for OD zoning.
So do we have to go through the special exception standards at some point?
We will, yeah, and there's
Yeah.
specific standards. We'll do that at the site plan stage, yeah. The number of uses, I put this in here, the number of uses for the first lot are they're conforming. You have, for every 4,000 square feet, you have a use, but per dwelling unit, it's 11,000 square feet. On lot 2, which is 20,000 square feet, we have 2 dwelling units and the educational use. So we're not conforming there. However, the chief building inspector can make the determination for the added density or to treat the apartments as accessory to the office use, which is on this lot here. So that's, I know that we in previous discussions, it seems like everyone's in support of the affordable housing and get as many as possible. But I think off the record, the applicant has stated that if worst case scenario, they may have to remove one of the two over the school, but we're going to leave it to the chief to see if there's anything.
So that's pending, okay.
Yeah.
It would be an unfortunate loss
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
To lose the affordable housing unit. We had thought that we had this under control, but code prevails, and without the interpretation from the chief building inspector, we'd be forced to go to the zoning board of appeals, which would further delay this project, and the owner obviously doesn't want to go through any further delays or expense, with the understanding that we don't even know if we could get the affordable unit. So, the path of least resistance is to remove the affordable workforce housing unit from the project, thereby reducing the total number from 3 to 2.
And the chief building inspector is waiting to make a decision now, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, this just came to our attention earlier this week.
Okay.
We will be speaking with Sean about this matter. He's been very supportive of the entire project all the way along, has already made some good interpretations based upon his abilities as the zoning code administrator. We'll see what he has to say. But if he can't make an interpretation in favor of the workforce unit, it will be lost.
So in order not to hold up the project, is it possible to build it out as a shell so that you can move forward and then go back to the zoning board and get the second unit
comes
that could
with
be
its own
finished?
complications.
I
It's something
know.
that we talked about. It does have to do with the transfer of density.
Yeah.
Because again, remember, this project, if it were just the buildings and the office and the, other than educational use, if it was just those two standalones, we wouldn't need any transfer of density. The density only comes into play with the workforce housing, and it makes matters complicated across the board. I mean, just heard complications are endless with regards to trying to get affordable housing here in the East End. And one of the things here is density. So if we do develop it as a shell, we would have to get approval from the health department for whatever density would be with the shell on build out, and then go back for an additional variance from the health department with more transfer of density rights.
Well, here you're at pre-submission, right? So
Yeah, but the idea was, we did a heavy pre-submission here with the understanding that when we got the site plan, it was just a matter of the details and getting through quickly. Health department is in the same capacity, that they know that this is an important project for multiple reasons, looking to help us move it through quickly. So this would delay it. We're not seeking any further delays. We're trying to move through quickly, and we may end up having to move forward without the second workforce housing unit on this property. But as Prina wrote in this pre-submission report, we'd like the opportunity to try to continue forward with it, knowing that it might come off the table at some point during the site plan.
And we did look at the density incentive provision in the code, which would allow the planning board to increase the density, but the criteria is just not met. So this is why we're at this stage. Brent already mentioned the sanitary. They're exceeding their allowable flow, so they're bringing development rights. IA systems would be required. Number 4, I talk about the setbacks and transitional yards. The chief inspector made a determination that the lot with the 3 property lines is 1 front line and 2 side lines, so that makes both lots in conforming with principal building setbacks. The transitional yard is 50 feet on sides and rear. And since it's abutting the railroad, it would start inside the railroad tracks. There is parking within the remaining 17 feet. The accessory parking can be within 10 feet of the property line, and in this case it's shown at 5, which the board could allow, especially given the shared parking and the access to both lots. Number 5, the parking. I show the calculations as they're proposed and what's required. I included this, what I've highlighted in the report, the basement indoor storage. That's called in the plans, it's called finished open space. There's a potential there for another added space or not. And I failed to include the 3 land bank spaces here. So all told, the cumulative parking is 30 spaces with 3 land banked. I've calculated 35, potentially 34. There are provisions in the code that allow the board to waive, and the board has waived in the past, the parking required for the affordable units, so long as it's still designated, and I have a note there for the designation of it. And then, of course, there's the church that offered or agreed to use their underutilized parking for the Hudson's Helping Hand use. I don't know if the board wants to recommend a shared parking agreement with the church, and if so, if you want to specify a quantity and have it be mutual, but I do have that as a discussion point.
We have to discuss it now.
I'd ask that we reserve that for
Yeah.
the site plan.
We could do it
We
at
already
site plan.
discussed,
Yeah, we're
we
at
discussed this
pre-submission.
before, but
Yeah.
the
Issues
church is
identified.
willing, but I don't wanna have to commit, but we can do
Right.
it. You guys have already had a long day, I don't wanna discuss that right now.
Thank you. Far from over, thank you.
Cross-access is, it's already indicated, it's a shared access off of Scuttle Hole cross-access agreements and shared parking between the 2 lots. Traffic, I'm just describing the location in the vicinity of Montauk Highway, and it'll be referred to the DOT. Number 8 is SECRA. This is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. It is located in New York archaeological sensitive area. During the subdivision, they submitted a phase 1A, 1B for the vacant lot. At the time, I'll assume that the first lot they didn't submit it for because it wasn't requested, that it was already improved. So I don't know if the board wants to consider having them do a further study, but it is an improved lot and will just be further developed. Okay. Number 9, natural features, just describing that the track offers a natural buffer from the residential and agricultural uses. And the adjacent properties have wetlands, agricultural uses, and it's also, the lots are adjacent to the APOD, but these items don't directly affect, nor are they within those overlay districts. Or do you have something to add? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Better
Try to say
clarify
as softly as
that.
possible.
For landscaping and screening, we'll ask for a landscape plan to include any, I added to include any existing vegetation to either be removed or remain, because there are several street trees, and there's already screening on all the property lines. There are 2 dumpsters identified. One is for the first lot, or lot 70. It's immediately at the opposite end of the access, and then the other one is adjacent to the property line with the railroad track. That one is about 5 feet off of the property line, similar to the parking. I have a note in here that the board is going to recommend any outdoor play area be fenced, or designated outdoor play area to be fenced and gated for safety, given the tracks and the immediate road.
The children that are gonna be
Yeah,
using it.
yeah, there's the basement walkout that will come out to this area, so maybe we'll just consider something down there. Jackie, I think we mentioned in the past there were bollards
Yeah.
alongside. Would you want me to put that in the report?
Yeah,
For
consider
bollards,
them.
Consider bollards along
Yeah.
the parking. The architecture, if I remember correctly, I think it was favored. It's showed stucco with vertical wood siding and a metal roof.
Could you hold that up so we can
yeah.
all see?
It's sort of like a barn structure, dormers. The second story isn't the full footprint, it's just a portion, so it's a nice, an appearance similar to other buildings you'll see in Waterloo and the downtown area. The floor plans indicate there's a little over 2,200 square feet in either building of unfinished basement space. The applicant, you guys talk about a covenant for unfinished basement space in your site plan, so we'll just have that as part of the site plan approval process. It's in keeping with the master plan, especially the scale and the style, the access, the shared access and egress, landscape buffers, as well as the educational use and vision for affordable housing. It meets all of that. There will be required to meet the special exception standards, the general standards, as well as the specific standards. The staff has had a preliminary review and they seem to comply. The lighting is essentially the same language we put on all the lighting with dark sky compliant. I included the 2700 Kelvin and the typical 10-foot height poles for any parking lot lighting. Signage. We'll look at signage at the site plan approval process. We may need a variance here we're talking about potentially a small freestanding sign because the backs of the building, essentially, or the end of the building, are facing the road. So any wall signage facing the parking lots, which are shown here, would need a variance. But I think Brent has stated that maybe they'll do something on the window, but they would want to do something out here, like a freestanding sign. And if the board would be in favor of maybe something with a 20-foot setback.
Okay, so quickly go through this balance of them, and then we'll.
Yeah, the rest of it is all the general language we put in every report for sustainability, the parking and any kind of green design elements, drainage by the town engineer, mechanical is very typical, equipment on the roof and all screened, no public address, and no outdoor storage, and then referrals to be made at the site plan stage upon completeness.
Want to read your,
Oh yeah, I don't know if I even have that.
here, well, take mine.
Oh, you have it? Yeah. So the planning board adopts the pre-submission conference report for 70 and 80 Scuttle Hole Road dated January 23rd, 2025 for the site plan special exception application, which proposes that the development of 2 adjacent lots as created by the subdivision map of Hayward Scuttle Hole in 2019, each to be improved simultaneously with a new mixed-use 2-story, 3,000 square foot building footprint with a basement on a previously improved lot 1 or number 70, measuring 22,427 square feet, with office space and a workforce housing unit, and lot 2 or number 80, measuring 20,000 square feet for educational services and 2 workforce housing units. Shared access, OD zoning district situated at 70 and 80 Scuttle Hole Road. I don't know if you want me to read the text.
No, so, do you have any questions on this, Brian? No. Any questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the pre-submission report.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Prentice, is this your Vanderbilt off or on?
No, that's on actually. It's a road abandonment.
That's your next one?
Yes, I only have the 2 on the.
There's no action deadline on this.
That one doesn't have an action deadline.
So can we move it?
I'm sorry?
Can we move it to the next?
I suppose we could. I think the applicant's representative is on Zoom, so I could.
You could just call them.
In an interest
Yeah.
of time, we could table
Absolutely,
it.
please, all right. So 22 will be
Off the agenda.
off the agenda,
And I'll reschedule.
and you're done. All right,
I am, thank you.
thank you, Prentice. Anthony,
Brendan, you done?
she's done.
Okay. Just real, just on Zoom, Martha Reichert is here for Ashley Ferrero. So a reminder to the board, this was the cannabis application on corner of Willow and Montauk Highway in.
Yep.
So we're going to deem this we were going to discuss the traffic report and secret issues. I've advised the applicant that we're still waiting on engineering comments at this point, so we can't deem the application complete. Plus, we're going to meet because the planning board wanted to discuss the possibility, at least looking at lining up access between these two. So I've advised Martha of that. So the first thing is that we would have to deem the application incomplete. And then Martha's here, she did want to ask the board if they would allow certain building permits, or allow her to submit certain building permits for certain work. I'll go through it real quick, and I'll give you my recommendation. But the first thing would be to deem the application incomplete.
Okay, motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Deemed incomplete, Ashley Caprero.
Yep, and then is Martha there?
Yeah, bring your own now.
Okay. So what Martha had put in a request with me to see if they could obtain building permits for the following items. One was for the demolition for the existing historic structure that's just coming down. The second was going to be to apply for certain building and electrical permits for interior work. And then they mentioned some exterior on the windows. You know, going through what we normally do, I don't have a problem with the demolition permit for an existing structure, but we normally further in a process before we start allowing, you know, so that's going to be my suggestion. If the board's okay with the demo, I don't have an issue with that.
Well, is it a historic structure?
It's not a historic structure.
How old
The other
is
one
it?
is.
That's the shed.
It's the shed.
It's the shed.
Small.
So I'm okay with that, so we can start getting some site work done, but I don't know that I could recommend any other
No,
permits
I
at this
agree.
point. But we'll let Martha's here.
Martha?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
No?
Yes.
Can
louder.
you increase your volume?
Sure.
There you go.
Is that better for you?
Much better.
All right. Sorry, I have a cold, so I'm a little bit difficult to understand, but thank you, members of the board. What we would like to be able to do is to keep the project moving along while we're waiting for those comments from the town engineer, as well as in response to the board's request that we coordinate with 1004 Montauk Highway with respect to driveway placement onto Willow Road. If the board would deem fit, we would like to apply for that demolition permit for the accessory structure and for the necessary electrical permits for the interior of the principal structure. We met with the chief building inspector last year and with Anthony, and we were told that if we wanted to do any interior work, that it would require the planning board's approval during the site plan process. And, you know, and I just want to go on the record in terms of there are other cannabis dispensary establishments that have not gone this far through the site plan approval process that did do their interior renovations and are operating. And so we would like the same sort of consideration, given that we are not skirting the process, and we would just in good faith like to be able to do the things that don't affect the exterior of the historic building, but just interior work that we could be doing right now while the site plan application is pending. Because it seems like in terms of the board's review, the majority of the issues have to do with site conditions with respect to the parking and the driveway.
So I just talked to Claire a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she does this. So again, the demolition, I don't have an issue with that. And I asked Claire about electrical work inside. They want to get an electrical permit. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. But no other interior work and no the windows, because we didn't go to ARB or anything yet. So that would be my suggestion if the board was inclined to.
I agree with that.
We're amenable to that. I guess my next question is just logistically, how are we coordinating the timing of our referrals to ARB and landmarks?
So once we have a complete application, we make all the referrals.
Okay. And then do you have a sense of when we will have comments from the town engineer? I know that delayed our application.
I will have something for the next meeting, Martha.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. So the action there would be to allow the building permit for demolition and electrical.
And electrical
Okay.
permit. Yeah.
Motion
Motion.
by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. They to demolish, agree to the demolish of the small building.
And electrical permits.
And
No.
no,
No.
no, because
Separate.
it's all the interior work and.
Well,
it's
what I
historical.
said, what I had said, because they asked to do interior work, you know, do all the interior work plus the electrical and then do the windows. My suggestion was to do the demolition, and I talked to
Demolition.
Claire, I didn't have any issues with the electrical work going in the
But
building.
not the
but
not
But
the
just
exterior
not the
work.
rest of it.
no
Yeah.
exterior, no other work,
Just
the
electrical.
and the demolition is what I'm suggesting.
As long as it's interior, I
Yes,
guess,
yes.
right? Okay, both that,
Yep, with no vested rights.
with no vested rights. Okay, we had a motion by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, everyone.
Feel better.
Anthony, 4.
Wilderness Trail, I took this over for whoever was working on it. This was the one, Carl Benninghoff is working on this. This is a landlocked parcel, if you recall. And we're dealing with trying to get access, if you remember either.
Oh, yeah.
So it's before the zoning board right now because they don't have any road frontage. So I had them coordinate secret with this board. So your response is just to let the ZBA or respond to the lead agency that you want to be the lead agency
Yeah,
for this
yeah,
project.
select lead agency.
Yep.
Okay, that's our action.
That's your action.
That's your own action.
That's your own
Yeah.
action.
Just if you had questions on access, where we are, but.
No, because I'm going to put
Let's
you on the
coordinate.
agenda for a discussion on that
Yeah,
one.
you'll come and you'll talk to us.
I will.
Okay.
Motion
Thank you, Carl.
That was easy.
Motion to coordinate by Kate, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Claire?
What's that?
The retaining of the
Yeah.
traffic consultant.
So, are you JR?
Yep.
Hey, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good. So he is standing in for David Martin. Last meeting, the board was interested in retaining a traffic consultant with this. So
Yeah.
I received 2 estimates. I have copies of both. So you can pass them down. One is from McLean and the other is from
Nelson Pope.
Nelson Pope. Yeah, I emailed them to you. So in that case, my recommendation, since the scope is your book.
Just say McLean.
Oh, is this the wrong one?
No, we got McLean.
We do have the
Versus
McLean.
the Amazon.
Oh, put that aside. That's for the Amazon.
We'll get to that.
That's Amazon.
That's
yeah.
Amazon. Sorry, there are too many McLean things in here. Here we go.
These traffic
This is
consultants. Nelson Pope.
That's Nelson Pope, and then this is McLean. Did you have any questions yourself, or no? So my recommendation, and obviously, I felt the scope was similar with both. The price is a little, one is more expensive than the other, so I just chose the McLean, and we have used him prior on other applications. So
We'd be happy to go with the less expensive option.
Of course.
Well, what's it, $4,425 from McLean.
it's at the end, yeah.
And Nelson Pope is
68.
68, but they did not include the meeting, so I
Right,
verified
that's
it with them.
important.
3
$7,400.
meetings, and it's 7,400.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It is. It often is different, yeah.
So,
I have a resolution to retain McLean.
okay, so how does the board feel?
McLean.
I agree.
Good,
McLean?
Great.
Yep. Motion to, by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. It is McLean.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, next is Amazon.
Okay. So that is the report from McLean. And Kevin, could you have Vin Corrado come on?
I have a ball going.
Oh,
On the agenda, I don't see it.
do you see him?
I see a ball.
There is a Paul, I think, and then also an Ethan.
Oh, here's, number 8, we're looking at.
But
Hampton Bays,
Vin Corrado.
Leveski,
ahead.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vin Corrado from McLean.
I don't see it.
Oh, okay.
Can we do it without him? Because
We
it's,
can.
yeah.
I
let's
think it's
move
pretty
forward.
straightforward.
Yeah, you did it in 10.
Did I send it to you
Yes.
yesterday? Oh, great.
Yeah.
So this is the report.
Yeah.
This was the analysis that you'd asked for. If you remember, I'll just give you a background. You had approved the Amazon in the Hampton Bays Business District.
And it was a kind of a new use, right? That end sending out last mile delivery.
And I was concerned with the BOCES across the street, and we wanted to do
And is
a year's
Is
analysis.
this a year later?
Yeah,
That's what we wanted?
This is a year, it's approximately a year and a half because we wanted it steady state first. So they were in full operation, so they told us when steady state started. And then 1 full year from that point. So it was about a year and a half. We had a 2-year bond for any improvements to the intersection if needed. If there was any accidents, any such thing. And the report came back pretty clean. Never a complaint, which is amazing, you know.
In fact, some of it was under, what they
As
anticipated.
somebody who drives there every morning and afternoon, I have to say,
It's good,
it's
George.
been pretty non-intrusive in terms of the trucks coming and leaving and
Great.
people leaving.
Yeah, so, Vin did a very good report summarizing it,
Yeah.
basically saying it was safe. I prepared a resolution, so
Okay.
you can see that.
I didn't see anything on crashes in here, but, so I don't know if he looked at them or didn't look at them, but.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you wanna see that reference with the Atlantic?
Oh, this was the original.
That's the original.
Right,
Right,
yeah.
and of course,
His report, I don't think mentioned crashes.
no, I did not. But I have extra copies, if you wanna take a quick look at that before we make this determination. Cause
I mean,
you'd be saying that there'd be no additional mitigation, which was the threshold, and if anybody else wants to take a peek at it.
I mean,
I do have an expert.
I'll let- Yeah, I mean, he can look at it and make sense out of it, I'll look at it.
I don't know if we originally asked him to make sure and look at that, he may have and didn't note anything, but.
Well, there's
as
a
far as
part
the
of
level
safety,
service
right?
and all that, the level of service and everything looks just fine at all the
The
intersections.
summary at the beginning says the traffic flow and safety, and then such no potential safety concerns such as near misses involving accidents making left-hand turns
Okay,
were observed.
so if he references near misses that he observed, I may not have pulled the accident data, but.
Oh, right.
But it was only 1 year, and as we know, generally they look at 3 years, so it may have been constrained by the fact that, you know, they didn't have the ability to go back 3 years.
Right, so they did the actual study for those 2 instances, looked at the parking, obviously, but you're right, accident data was not really pulled for that area. Okay.
But everything else on it looks, as you said, no,
Mm-hmm,
no
right.
real impact.
Do you want me to ask for the additional before we have a sign off on accidents for the intersection?
You know, in this particular case, I think we'd be okay, you know, without it. You know, they'd only be able to look at 1 year worth of data,
Yeah,
which
they're
is not really,
It's not
And
substantive enough.
would that lead to mitigation?
probably not.
Probably
Yeah.
not, right?
So do we have 2 actions here, to accept the report and to release the bond?
No, but based upon his report, which concludes, I've just kind of summarized it, no, that the operation of the site is consistent with the original traffic analysis and no additional traffic mitigation measures to be required. But your resolve would be to recommend the release of the performance bond.
Okay. So, motion by Kate.
Do we leave Paul on?
Unless they have something to say, so. Is Ethan? Or there was no Ethan either? Hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We
Can
were
you
just
hear me?
going to accept everything. Is that good?
Okay, yeah, I was prepared to answer questions. In terms of the accidents, we did contact the police. We found that there were no complaints and they didn't mention any accidents to us. So I don't think there's been any problems. We
No
were very
news is good
pleased with the
news.
results.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Okay, motion to accept the report? Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, one absent, and this includes releasing the $100,000
Performance bond.
bond.
Yep.
Performance bond, thank you.
Great, thank you. Oh, and then the next one is to accept a maintenance bond in the amount of $76,833.
Where is that?
Long Island Auto Maintenance.
Long Island Collectors?
Yes. That would be-
76,833.
Okay.
And you have that,
Is that yours or Anthony's?
That's mine, even though it says Anthony.
Yeah, it does say
I was going by what it said.
I know.
Claire, do you have a
resolution?
Resolution for us to vote on?
I do.
Okay.
That's where I got the number from.
Okay.
You know what? But it's actually 800.
It's not 833, that's where the resolution's wrong.
8,000.
I'm only repeating what's in the resolution, Claire.
I know, and I'm wrong.
It's
So it'd be
8,000?
$76,800. Yeah, I don't usually put the little bits of money in there.
76,800.
Yeah.
What are we looking at, Vanderbilt Park?
That's the resolution.
Which one's it?
This one, number 9. Setting the maintenance bond
Probably you spell it out
for
on the
landscaping.
Just put it numerical rather than writing it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's why.
That's fine.
are we pretty clear about this? It's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna have a motion to accept
Motion.
the bond by George, second by Tom, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
This was for the original all outside work,
Right.
as opposed to
The new one
inside
that was
stuff.
approved. Yes,
That's kind of
exactly.
what I
Am I taking anything off for 6 and 7, or? And P-
The next
And
one is
RP?
Kim Lester
That
both.
comes
We're
back.
coming back.
And RP comes back. It's
Okay, anything quick that we could do?
Kim Lester,
Oh, yeah.
number 11.
I've seen that.
Kevin, Susanna Herman should be on Zoom.
You're on now.
Is Kim Lester?
For Kim Lester.
Number 11.
Kim Lester boat storage.
Yay! My turn. So this application is for the outdoor boat storage on the parcel known as 17 Allenson Lane in the RWB zoning district. We had a public hearing in December. We were waiting for the comment period to be up. Attached is the staff report with all the various comments. I do want to point out under the comments by the Department of Fire Prevention, there was a recommendation to install a fire hydrant on Allenson Lane. However, we had gone back and forth about deeming the application complete because they didn't have the fire hydrant information, and we did have it put on the revised survey before we deemed the application complete. I spoke with the fire marshal's office this morning. He did miss it when he reviewed the revised site plan, so he said it's acceptable not to require the fire hydrant because there is one available in the appropriate set-off distance for fire hydrants. I have an email to that effect for the file, for the record.
Show it on the site plan? Does it show the hydrant on the
It
site
does.
plan?
It shows a hydrant 240 feet to the north of the property.
And I think we had reviewed that they drained the boats of all fuel and flammable liquids
Before
prior to
essentially
storage,
dry-
right?
dry,
So
There's no maintenance.
That's correct. It's no maintenance on site, no fuel storage on site. It's just off-season boat storage. So I have gone through and listed the site plan standards and compliance with that, as well as the special exception standards, because it is a special exception in the RWB. Do you want to go through each and every one, or do you want to just speed things up?
Any that pop out?
Again, the main one was the fire hydrant. We determined that that's not going to be a requirement. There were some concerns for screening, which the Zoning Board of Appeals, as part of the variance to allow for the second use because the existing use is single-family residence, required that evergreen screening be installed along the southerly property line. There's a 6-foot stockade along the northerly property line. They are putting in a naturally vegetated buffer. The Conservation Board did recommend that the site plan be reconfigured to allow for future retreat of the existing dwelling. But because it is an RWB, they would have to come back for us for that anyway if they look to retreat or further elevate the home, because it was elevated immediately after Hurricane Sandy. But if they want to expand it or retreat, that would be a future application.
Teresa, did you capture the New York State DEC comments?
I believe so,
Dry boat
yes.
storage.
Yes. Yes, they're on page 4, and I don't know what happened, but there's some spacing issues on page 5. So they extend to page 4 and go on to page 5. They just generally said the boat storage is not regulated activities pursuant to Title Wetlands, Article 25. There was a wetlands permit that was issued by the DEC for a bulkhead, but that's separate from this, and that's not being part of the application. And then there is some concerns with respect to northern long-eared bat, but the applicant is not clearing any trees, so that is not applicable. So attached, I went through all the standards. No lighting is proposed for the outdoor boat storage, other than the existing lighting on the residential structure. Also, they are proposing some off-street parking in association with boat storage, but that is going to be pervious. They are proposing to allow for restoration of a buffer immediately adjacent to the wetlands in accordance with the plan that's referenced here. The plan does call for natural vegetative succession through the cessation of disturbance activities, and then if upon completion and prior to issuance of CO, if supplemental planting is required, there are planting specifications on the plan. I am recommending that, and this will be as part of the resolution of conditional approval that we'll discuss in a moment, I am recommending that the area of the buffer be covenanted, just to formalize that area.
Yeah.
Beyond that, these are generally standard responses. They're not proposing to generate a lot of noise. There's not going to be a lot of traffic except when they bring the boats in. It's temporary and only a few times a year. And again, fuel storage is not proposed. Outdoor storage is outdoor lighting is not proposed. No PA systems. So it generally appears that the project is compliant with the requirements.
Just a quick question, because it was saying storing boats within the cleared upland area 100 feet from the wetland is not regulated activity. So I think it was when Craig was here, he had said, is there going to be some kind of split rail fence to delineate that area just in case for boat turnarounds?
No, I don't believe there is a fence proposed.
Okay.
Okay, so I do have a resolution in front of you for the conditional approval of the project. We did have a public hearing in the 10-day written comment period, which was up, and so this is recommending approval. The main conditions are listed for the wetlands permit is submission of revised plans identifying the wetlands preservation area and the covenanted naturally vegetative buffer consistent with the landscape plan. Let's see, submission of the covenant to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney's office prior to, no disturbance of the wetlands of the wetlands and the buffer as part of the project. And that's pretty much it. Those are the main ones. Obviously, no public address systems, no outdoor lighting associated with the boat storage, and no fuel storage permitted.
Any questions? Okay, motion by Kate, second by David, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. You wanna go right down? Teresa, you wanna do CBE?
Well, yep, I'm the next 3-1. So,
Okay.
the next one.
Is somebody here for CBE? You are, okay.
Yes, they are, right?
JR, just to see you.
Okay, So we had reviewed CVE at the last meeting. It's a pre-submission conference. We had discussed the various issues. The main, of course, being the number of uses on the site and whether or not the application is, the property is considered an opportunity site. We are not the lead agency on this particular application. That was the Pine Barrens due to the fact that there had been a conservation easement on the property. So they have issued a finding statement and have granted approval for the project. But again, for us, the main concern is the number of uses and also access to the parcel, and then whether or not it's consistent with an opportunity site as identified by the code. So those issues were outlined.
Can we get it up, Anthony?
Anthony?
Oh, yes.
It's 80 Sunrise Highway.
Is this the application where the solar equipment was gonna be on another piece of property?
It appeared to be in the right of way, and I believe they're working on resolving that, whether they bring it onto the property itself or some other access parcel point. That was one of the things that they said they were aware of, and it was concern that we had brought up and discussed at the last meeting.
Because we've had several of these applications.
Yes.
But I have the right one in my head.
Yes. So that's the large parcel there. It's currently sand mined. They are in the process of mining still. The number of use issue is the main concern along with the access, but that may or may not be an issue dependent on current town board legislative actions.
So do we need to wait until the sand mine
No,
operation?
this is just pre-submission conference.
Pre-submission conference.
So we can adopt the report because we did review it and there was some minor typos and additions with respect to the overlay districts that needed to be added. But we had discussed this and reviewed it in length.
Did you have any questions
Nope.
of us?
Just look forward to working through the site plan review process.
Okay. Any questions from the board? We have a motion to accept. George, second by Tom. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Rivian.
Rivian. Yes, you'll get a copy in a couple of days and you'll also get an updated report with the draft.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for being patient. Come up,
I have
everybody.
What is this?
That's the plan. Yes, Rivian.
Hi.
Hi.
How's
How
it
are
going?
you? Good.
Nice to see you again.
It's been a long day.
It's been a very long day.
Sorry.
You want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah. Justin Ackerman with Rivian. And then Robert.
Rob Fruit with Dynamic Engineering.
Yep.
And I believe there's someone from Joe Paparo's office on Zoom.
Yes.
I forget his name, unfortunately.
One has the handout to have it on some.
Okay.
This is a nice map, Teresa.
Thank you. So.
Do you have one? Did she give you one?
I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have extras.
David Singer put it on.
Thank you.
Oh, perfect.
Here.
Great. So, as you may recall, we had a public hearing in the fall regarding this application, and as we were discussing the draft staff report, the board brought up some significant concerns with respect to access to the parcel, as this is probably one of the busiest and possibly most dangerous intersections in the town. So, as part of that, we looked at potential cross-access, and there is cross-access in the immediate vicinity on adjacent parcels. The only missing link was the vacant parcel between this site, 1 Montauk Highway, and the parcel that has the BMW dealership on it, which is controlled by the applicant, and the owner of the parcel, in agreement with the applicant, agreed to provide cross-access across that vacant parcel. So we had a public hearing at the last meeting to enact the cross-access, and there had been some concerns with respect to the BMW about where the location of the cross-access would be. They provided a map which they had recommended, but that would take it into the side of their building, and that's really not going to provide ease of turn and access through that parcel. So the map that I prepared, which you have a copy of, shows where the existing cross accesses are and where Rivian has proposed theirs, and it appears to be the most most common sense location. So again, we did mostly discuss almost all of the items with respect to the staff report. The main issue was access, which I think we've resolved through this provision of the cross access.
And can you just reiterate the lefts and rights from the actual Rivian property?
Okay,
'Cause
so you will only ever be able to turn right into the parcel from the westbound lane of Montauk Highway, right? There will be no access off, no egress out of Montauk Highway. There will be no egress or ingress off of County Road 39, except through the BMW parcel. By having the cross access, you will be able to exit further east by going through the Audi property, which you can see on the map.
Can you just, which is which? Because car dealerships
Yes,
are
okay.
car dealerships.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
may
fine.
Okay, so this one right here, this building, is
green roof?
the green roof is the BMW.
The old
right?
BMW, right?
Hmm?
The old BMW.
The old BMW, and then that's Hampton Coffee Company right there, and they have a cross access as well.
Yes.
And I believe this is Audi, and there's cross access here, and then there's cross access to the adjacent dealership, and I can't recall which one that one is. So you can get east.
This helps.
Yeah.
No, this is quite good. But it is cross-access at its best in
Absolutely.
operation.
So
Great.
On cross access on steroids.
Yeah, perfect, right? And what will happen is by establishing this cross access, we will have cross access on 2 of the 4 corners of this intersection, because there is
Great.
cross access across the street on the Pier 1 properties.
Yes. Which goes to flying around to flying.
That's correct.
And
It goes over to Flying
what
Point.
will we close up on here?
So that westerly driveway that goes on to the right of way,
That'll be
that will
closed
be
up.
closed up, and the other easterly driveway will be modified so that it is ingress only.
Ingress only. Perfect. Terrific.
So this will replace the idea at the last meeting of going out through
The lot, the vacant
this
lot.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so we're eliminating that idea.
Oh, no, they can
No, they're going to be able to go.
But didn't the gentleman that owns this property say it goes against his traffic flow? Wasn't that the issue?
Did you talk with him?
We're in the process of talking with him and just like collecting all the information at this point in time. He was out for a portion of the last 2 weeks, so we haven't had a chance to catch up with him since then. But I think that map.
His initial recommendation, Mr. Decker, was to have the access go here, down parallel to the property line, and then turn here into the building. And then there's a driveway access that is one way on the side of the building, but that makes
It's
that
very
turning
narrow,
radius very narrow
It's
and,
very narrow.
and difficult. And then if you wanted to go east, that's not going to help you.
No.
So this is really the most appropriate location for the cross access. And they are having a site plan application that is pending at the moment for the old BMW site. So those final details on their specific site can be worked out as part of that process.
Can you enter also from that?
Yes, you will be able to enter.
You can enter here.
That's great.
There is a stacking middle
And they
lane.
can go to Hampton
along
Coffee.
here.
Yeah, there's a
There's
center
lane.
lane. Right.
You can charge your car, walk
some
over,
coffee.
get some
Get some
coffee, and
coffee.
then walk back.
Oh,
It'd be
no,
great.
they have their own coffee.
Excellent.
Well, that's
No, not anymore.
eventually,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
So I have in front of you the staff report as well as a resolution adopting the staff report and granting conditional approval. The approval would be conditioned on making some minor changes to the site plan, specifically fire service markings and those fire emergency markings, as well as minor modifications to the lighting plan to bring it down to the compliance with the new color temperature fixtures requirements and the lowering of the pole, because there's a couple of poles that are 14 feet and generally you have been requiring 10 feet, and the applicant has agreed to that. Prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, we will want to have that cross-access easement filed after approval with the town clerk's office, but because that final details are being worked out as part of the adjacent site plan, that can be done prior to CO.
And will BMW continue to keep their inventory on your lot?
That's part of the negotiations, I
negotiation.
think, at this point in time, and yeah,
Mhm.
I think the new tenant is gonna be Jeep, like Chrysler, or I'm blanking. I think BMW moved
They did move.
to, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so, but yeah, we're
You'll work it
working
out.
that out.
And-
Because right now
and
we
it's
have nothing
actually-
planned for that lot.
It's actually a condition, and prior to issuance of CO, all of the vehicles should be removed from the site, because otherwise it wouldn't need site plan.
So do you just want to go to the, to your approval, resolution?
Yes, so again, there's a resolution, it lists, under the be it resolves, it lists all the site plan conditions, inclusive of the minor changes and modifications prior to signature, the screening of the HVAC and dumpsters, the lighting changes, and then obviously the cross access, which is the most important item. Do you have any questions?
We covered it all. We talked about it. This is great. You see it move along. It was great.
Collaboration. It was a lot- it was a lot of work, but.
Right, appropriate signage will be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Make it work.
No, we
Yes,
definitely
but
appreciate
that's a
you guys
separate-
considering and sticking with us, so.
Yes, well, see, we worked it out.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, motion to accept the
Yay, you're
resolution.
welcome.
Motion by
Second.
Tom, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
nice
you
evening.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Is anybody here for
Thank you, everyone.
Collective? You are? Yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure. That's
You want to do that,
Yeah,
Anthony?
that's next.
Number 14, Hampton's Collective.
Thank you.
This is the cannabis dispensary. This is on County Route 39. I forgot the name of this. Maybe Meatcox Gardens, or it's an
Yeah,
outdoor furniture
it's old
place. So,
Meatcox Gardens, yeah.
Nice. Actually, it's a pretty nice site there. If you've not been there.
George?
So in any case, this is just a pre-submission conference report for a proposed cannabis retailer within a portion of one of the buildings here. We've looked at to obviously have a pre-submission conference. So I'm just going to go through my comments. Number one just talks about the sections of the code for the general and the specific standards for cannabis retailers that have to submit their petition. Number two, no delivery services are permitted regardless of what the state has issued in terms of permits, because we've had this issue pop up. So unless all approvals are in place with this town, they can't have any service. Number three, this talks about the site plan for this. If the board recalls, we got a second application that came in after I got the cannabis, because they never closed out the site plan that was approved for this.
Right.
And so what the board said was, we don't want to reapprove the expired site plan. Close it out as either part of this application or give a separate application. So that's what this says here, is that that's how we'll proceed.
Okay.
And any discrepancies, between what was approved and what's there now will be addressed, which is number 4. And that includes an updated survey, which is needed for the property. Number 5, the 100-foot setback from the residential properties in the back is being respected. It's probably 200 feet from here to the closest point of the facility, so that's clear. Actually, it should be number 6 is the parking. They didn't provide parking calculations, but it's based on 1 per 180 with approximately 2,600 square feet. That would require about 15 spaces. The site plan shows more than enough parking, but obviously we're going to get the parking calculations during the formal to make sure all the uses are accommodated. Number 6 talks about traffic impact study. Also on number the parking, we could always look at land bank parking, since there seems to be some land here that if it became an issue, that could be an option. 6 is about the traffic study, so we are going to require a traffic report. The planning board's requiring it, along with a pedestrian analysis for the site. 7 and 8 I just grayed out. 7 talks about access driveway changes and no left turns for the site. You know, the site plan was approved with these 2 access points. So maybe what I could say in here is, you know, during the formal site plan review, we'll look at if any changes to access will be necessary or any no left turns or something like that. So we don't leave the issue, you know, unrecognized. I don't
Because they
know.
have 2 curb cuts.
You've got a light that's a little bit west, so you could go west and turn around.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And cross-access, you have that down to discuss?
That will go in there. Let me put that in there as well. Cross access. Yeah, we usually put a statement about looking at the cross access from adjacent site plans. So
Yeah,
my guess is
because Gloria's Point is well taken.
Yeah,
You know, there's a signal at that corner.
Yeah, you might be able to get out
Bring
onto,
people out.
onto North Main.
perfect. Yeah, so we will
Yeah.
put in another statement about the cross access
Right.
so that we could get to a controlled intersection.
Right. Can you also put street trees, please, and down for landscaping?
Sure. The other thing was the formalized parking. Obviously, this is a gravel parking lot, and you know, so they show the spaces. Do we want further improvements into this site because of this use? You know, that's we don't have to resolve that today. I
No,
think
but
that's-
can we put the parking in the rear?
But yeah, I mean, you know, most of it, you know, this is where the site plan originally approved it. We have a site plan that approved this in 2008.
We do have the buffer in the rear as well.
Yeah, you know, we'd have to look at that, Jackie, but perhaps I could put a statement that maybe relocating some parking.
And complying with the County Road 39 study, which was to put parking in the rear.
Yeah, so I'll make reference to that and then relocating the parking in the rear. You can see how the site is sort of set up. Let's give you an indication there.
It's such a very nice building.
It is,
You know, it's a pity to lose that visual with parking.
Yeah, no, you're right. So we'll put in a statement about the street trees, the cross access, and what was the other thing? you just-
And the parking.
And the parking in the back. That's it. Yep. I'll add that.
Are there sidewalks there? I think so.
Yes. Yep.
Too, there's some great street trees on the other property to the east.
Yeah.
Keep going. See those? No. Go
went
back.
past it. You went past it already.
You went past it. Those big street trees
Okay.
there.
We could enhance landscaping. We're going to get a landscaping plan as part of.
Okay.
Again, number 9, delivery service. Will cars be stored on site, and if so, how many?
The cause for delivery would be additional parking to what's mandated by the size of the store.
That's a good question. The issue of delivery service never really popped up in discussing the legislation. So part of when we look at the traffic analysis and pedestrian, we'll look at see if additional parking will be necessary for separate delivery services. Dumpster location, lighting. Shall adhere to all the lighting standards, Dr. Sky compliant. Number 12 talks about buffers, additional landscaping. Actually, I say the front and rear of the property may be necessary to provide additional screening if deemed necessary. Number 13, at the time of formal, they'll need to submit a radius map showing that they meet all the separation distances as required. I don't think there's any issues here, but we always ask for the proof. A detailed safety management plan must be submitted, showing compliance with all the applicable regulations. Signage is going to be subject to planning board approval, but as noted with the state regulations, they can't have any colloquial references. This would be a type 2 action under SECRA and Chapter 157 of the town code. And referrals are going to be made to agencies, which could result in further changes to the project. That's what I have. The key is that we're going to have to get the site plan squared away with the existing site plan, and because it's.
But aren't we going to have a new site plan and just?
Yes, we're going to do it all as a single thing. Whether they submit 2 separate applications, we review it simultaneously, or one application. I don't think.
But we're not going to be bound by the 2008 site plan. You're going to retire that.
Well, it's expired, and they built the site plan. They came here to renew it so they could get their CO. It expired before they got their CO, I think, is what happened. So when they came here to renew it with you, the board said, because we have the cannabis application being considered for the site, and that there were some minor discrepancies but from what was previously approved and what's there, let's cover it all at one time as part of either one application or two separate applications that get reviewed simultaneously. I don't think the planning board can tell the applicant how they submit the application, but the board, that was what the board said when they tried to get the reapproval. The board said you got to review it all at once, and any changes to the site plan that occurred from what was approved and what's there now, I think it's really just, there's like a shed sitting here. There was a few minor things that we would have to address as part of
Seems
the.
like such a labor-intensive effort to have to go back to an old site plan and correct it and then deal with the new site plan.
I don't agree with that, actually, because I'm the one doing the work. It's easier for me to correct the previous site plan since it's been approved and built and landscaped and
So everything
bonded for that plan. You know what I mean?
Everything from that site plan has been built.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions?
Nothing further.
Any questions from the board? Okay, motion to accept the conference report. Motion by Gloria, second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay.
The big Seth said that 15 they could do next time. It's a road abandonment.
Great.
45 Fanning
Is this incomplete?
is incomplete. It's a 2-lot subdivision in Hampton Bays. You looked at it, and it's before the ZBA right now. So.
Okay, motion to deem this incomplete. Motion by George, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
2 trees.
2 trees. All right.
Trees. Well, we're gonna have to. How are we gonna move this along?
Well, first of all, the application is incomplete, so we could do a resolution right now deeming it incomplete.
Motion for 2 trees that it's incomplete. Motion by George, second by Tom. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstention?
We're just so on that. We're waiting for.
6, let me finish the vote. 6 in favor, 1 absent. It's incomplete.
It's incomplete. So the couple things here. Number one, we had a work session on this. So the changes to this site now is they're going to restore the area that had been previously disturbed back to its original grade and condition. They're proposing, if you recall, the 2 new sand rinks outside of the easement area within the development area. They're removing or proposing to remove the RVs that housing people. So that's,
They've been removed.
Can you give us your name for the record, please?
This is Karen Pate Mercury, attorney for the applicant, Hayground Road Development LLC, and also Nika Strunk, attorney for the applicant. Yes, the RVs, sorry to interrupt, we got a picture today, they've been all removed.
Good.
So they're gonna look at other forms of,
Sure.
we're gonna look at other forms of housing for that, so.
Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, and then they show on the plan in the orange here, they're small, the manure piles. They're going to relocate. We may want to look at this a little bit, but they're proposing that, and then the increase from the horses from the 89 from the previous site plan to the 107 that the site plan references that the property can accommodate. To that point, part of the completeness with engineering is they also got to submit a covenant amendment because there was a covenant that was imposed at the time of the site plan that restricted it to the 89 horses, not the 107 that the site plan referenced. So what I'm suggesting is part of the completeness to have to submit that covenant amendment. Once we get the completeness, we will hold a hearing on the ag construction permit and the covenant amendment at the same time.
Good.
Is what I'm suggesting.
Good.
And then
I just had a quick question. Do you mean by that, like, we have to make an application for a covenant amendment, or we just have to submit the actual document that we're proposing?
it's just a written request along with the fee.
All right, and so we did the number of horses. We're also gonna have a farm gate at the southern end because it's south of It's south, the most southern part towards Montauk Highway. There's access down below here, and there's a hedge, and it's open, and we don't want people just kind of going in and out.
Because that's where the trailers were, right?
Yes, there were 2 containers, they've been removed.
So it's vacant.
Yeah, it's vacant, but we need to have access. And also for, ambulance or something, if you're way down here, I mean, you can't really get access here. And this is open, open
So
space.
you want the gate where?
There's gonna be a 50-foot gate here. There's an opening in the hedge. If you drive home
yes.
tonight, you'd see it, whatever. So we just don't want, and if a horse gets loose or
Sure.
something, they run off.
Understand.
So we don't wanna have that opening, but we don't wanna, there's beautiful hedges up there. We wanna keep those. So, and the neighbor has fencing all along here, and then this person has fencing, so we're in good shape.
And incidentally, Tom did his review, and I gave them the list of stuff that they needed.
Yeah, so that was good. So we should have it for the next meeting.
Okay. So when is
and-
that next meeting?
Well, if I get stuff, the next meeting's the 13th.
The
What we're
13th.
trying to do is get to a completeness so we can get
Yes.
to a hearing.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Sounds
All right, so
sensible.
that's
Okay.
basically it. So thank you. I know you
Pretty
had a
much
busy
addresses,
day.
and that pretty much addresses all the issues raised in those letters,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, well, that's why this has been taking
Yeah.
so long, meeting with them, so.
All right, so
We finally got the plan that works.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, is it yours?
Mika?
Yeah, don't take that stuff.
I'm sorry. I know.
So Anthony, what are we doing? Do I have to, are we voting on anything?
We voted.
Incomplete, okay.
Thank
My
you.
house, and I needed to talk to somebody, and you
How
gave me a
about,
good recommendation.
204
Basically, don't bother
butter?
doing the town.
Oh, that was the,
We've been doing it for 10 years.
The old potato barn in Bridgehampton on Butter Lane that became the fitness center.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just doing an extension for them to submit the final maps. I'm a little behind. So from November 4th, 2024 until February 2nd, 2025.
February
2nd.
22nd.
Motion.
Motion by Gloria.
I'll second.
Second by Kate. All in favor? Opposed, abstention. 6 in favor, 1 absent. 19 Southampton Oaks.
All right, so just real quick with this, we get these a lot. Is it White Plain or White Oaks? White Plain.
White Lane.
So this property, this vacant property here, the subdivision that was done in the 80s required a common driveway. The driveway was built, this is all skewed, was built to the back. This property went to the Conservation Board, got a wetlands permit for the development, and, squeezed the development. Marty's office dictated where everything went. And it doesn't have a common driveway. We get this a lot. So they put in a request to amend, there was no public hearing required. So they wanted to see if the planning board would amend the covenant so they could allow this property to have its own driveway, which I believe is separated 40 or 50 feet from this driveway. If the board's inclined to amend the covenant. This road, White's Lane, I don't have any heartache over it, to be quite honest, but I didn't know if the board had any major issues with that.
No?
Is any of the common driveway to this was already built?
This one was already done back.
But
here.
is it on that property?
No, it's right within the flag.
Just a little bit off.
Yeah, this is off, yeah.
Okay.
So they don't want to do the common driveway, they want their own driveway.
Claire?
You ready for me?
No,
No.
I just want to talk to you.
No.
All right, we're taking a vote on
About
this?
this? Yeah.
Yep.
You would be to approve the covenant amendment to eliminate the common driveway requirement.
Okay, for the covenant amendment, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we have enough. We have a supermajority. Motion by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, 2 absent.
Let me just find, is anybody here for Eastport Bible Church? Is anybody on Zoom?
Who again?
Eastport Bible Church, is there anybody?
Suzanne is on it.
That's it?
Yes.
So here's what I'm gonna suggest, board, on this one. We were just gonna do the staff report today and then do an extension until, because I was gonna do the resolution next time.
Let's do the extension.
report and the resolution, next
Next
time,
week.
so let's do the extension.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we need an extension, number 21, extension to
until February 13th.
Feb 13. Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then just acknowledging the walk-on signature of the maps, Tuckahoe Orchard.
Even signed.
Okay, motion.
Motion to, no, we don't need
You don't
that,
have
to.
just, just an
Right,
acknowledgement of
sorry.
that. 22 is off, so does that leave us 20? 20 is off. And these town board referrals we're not gonna do, Claire. Do we need to?
Well, one I think is gonna be adopted, which is just to reduce the number of, members of the Landmarks Board from 11 to 9. So I wrote a resolution that said there was no planning issues. Because I don't think we care, right?
There are no planning issues.
That's appropriate.
No, so
Yeah.
if you wanted just to adopt that,
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
adopt number 24, motion by
other one,
Kate,
otherwise
second
we're good.
by David, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
We can table the other
We're
ones.
table 25, 26, and that means we're back. John?
Anthony, can you tell Dave that we tabled the historic resignation?
Yes.
John, you're on.
Jim, Burke, and Janice are gonna come in for
Okay, are they outside? Clear?
Seth, can you
Can,
check
Seth,
that?
can you check? We'll make it.
You're gonna make it.
Where do we stand? Any movement on here?
Oh, yeah.
Can you get to
Have all your belongings, John?
I think
Yes.
so.
Sure.
I will go to the old show.
I don't know. You have them on.
Huh? I've got them on, although they're reading glasses. I'm ruining my eyesight.
So what have I given you so far? Just the staff report?
Let's
Staff
see.
report, lots 1 and 2.
Copy of the code.
We have the draft report.
Statement of findings, we got.
John's version of the.
We have the secret findings of the town board.
This is the resolution to adopt the finding statement. And then you have the findings too, right? You have the findings?
Yes, we have that.
Jackie, resolution for
Mhm.
findings.
Looking at this?
That is, what's what version? Is that the 9th?
I don't know. I just read the resolution. That's all it is. Maybe
Here
this
is the latest and greatest.
site plan resolution?
This is the staff report.
Oh, it's the staff report.
And here is the site plan resolution for number 1.
One is the affordable?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I think I have,
And then this is this resolution for number 1.
So I don't think we did any
Did you get
amendments
the-
to
did you
the
get the engineering comments?
finding statement. Here's Janice.
So how can you do that?
James Casabasso, he was hoping he can still do it after this quickly because the town board hearing is on Tuesday.
All right, well,
And they
let's
might
do,
just adopt it.
John
They want to
first.
landmark it and CPS, chomping at the bit.
Dave's got his coat on, just listen to him.
No, after this.
You sure?
No, no,
Okay.
we can do, I mean.
We should land
We're waiting
That's
for
it.
Jim.
End of story. We should
All right,
land
we're
We have to
waiting
wait
for
for Jim
Jim.
Jackie.
anyways.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay, you wanna do it?
Yeah, come on up.
Come, David.
I didn't bring my bottle of water and I got a sore throat. So hopefully you've read the report. It's a very extensive report that the Landmarks Board and Julie Green did for the Casabasso landmarking. CPF is looking to buy this property as a historic property. Sorry, my voice is bad. And the Landmarks Board has recommended that the town board landmark the property. Did you read the report? It's a pretty good report.
Actually didn't say it.
You're all familiar with Casabasso?
Yes.
Okay. The castle is being landmarked. The restaurant's going to be demolished.
They're gonna keep the two swords.
You're going to keep the statues
That's
that
part
are
of
on
the
the property.
landmarking too.
Yeah.
I think it's toxic masculinity.
But let me just touch on the reasons for why it qualifies for landmarking. The town code specifies certain criteria that a property has to meet in order to qualify for landmarking. I think there's 5 or 6 criteria. The Landmarks Board finds that it meets 4 of the criteria. Number 1, possesses special character or historic aesthetic interest of value as part of the cultural, political, economic, or social history of the region. This is primarily because of the sculptures on the property that were built by Theophilus Brower. There's also other monuments around the town and also in Brookhaven town that he constructed. The eagle in front of the what used to be the East Merchant School. There's a soldier in front of the Eastport Elementary School. There used to be like gate posts at John Duck's restaurant that he had constructed when John Duck's restaurant was in Eastport. When they moved to Southampton, they moved these gate posts, but they've disappeared.
I remember those.
Yeah.
You do, yeah. When I went to see if they were there shortly after they sold it, and they were gone. Like, I'm sure they just got bulldozed.
Okay.
Number 2, the property is identified with the historic personage, or the site is of historic event in the town or nation. This qualifies due to the association with Theophilus Brower, a recognized artist, ceramist, and concrete craftsman and innovator. He actually developed a very unique process for glazing pottery. It was like a secret. He never told anyone how he did it, but a lot of his pottery are in museums around the country. Very, very collectible pieces of pottery. Number 3, the property embodies the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type, period, or style, or contains elements of design, details, materials, or craftsmanship which represent a significant innovation. His technique for creating sculpture and the construction of the castle itself are all pretty distinguishing characters. And 4, because of the unique location or singular physical characteristic represents an established and familiar visual feature. It's clearly a landmark as you drive on Montauk Highway through West Hampton. Everybody knows the Casa Basso restaurant and the castle that are there, and the 2, I don't know what they're called, but the 2 swordsmen that are at the entrance. So Landmarks Board is recommending landmarking. CPF would like to purchase it as a historic property. And if you concur, I will prepare a resolution showing your support.
I think we support preservation, for sure.
I concur for landmarking.
Yes. Okay, so
Right.
motion? Do we need a motion?
Yep.
Motion by George, second by Tom, all in favor.
Is the little bakery gonna stay?
Opposed,
Well, the
abstention.
bakery is in the
6
castle
in favor,
now.
1 absent.
Yeah, the bakery's there. They're trying to find out who's going to be the steward for the
If
property.
anybody's never been to the bakery, it sells some very nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Dave.
thank you, David.
It's a very small place to
Okay,
sell.
onward. You're here, Jim. Okay. All right, so where are we? Where are we?
But I
The gist of it is that we talked to the, project sponsors who were explaining to us how the HCR credits work, that they can't really, the tax credits, they can't separate the 16 the way we
Let's hear
thought we could. And, okay, so they're going to administer it still in the lottery and to our, when we advertise locally. And as long as our 216 says they have to do it in accordance with the state, they're getting state tax credits, so they still have to do it in accordance with the state. So, I mean, the biggest win here is that for the 16 units, we're getting the in perpetuity, and that's what we always wanted. And then the other ones will have the dispensation as per the 216K2. So if you
So we
feel
relinquished
good about that, I
8A
mean,
130.
and then Claire was also going to add something else about the average AMI, which they said it averages around 50 to 60% across the board. So they do the state does ensure that there's this mix.
So 80 to 30, but the average is between 50 and 60.
So we'll add that.
Is that-
So that's
Okay.
a bit of more assurance for us that
Yeah.
it's not going to be any one
Bit
dominant.
lower end, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that we, hey, we all understand. We just want to have a healthy mix of occupancy there that everyone can feel good about. So that's really it. It's not to disparage anyone or say that,
any one is better than another. So, I
So
just
where
wanna
does
make
that
clear.
language go into?
So the covenant that she just meant would be a covenant. The average would be between 30. It would be between 30 and 80, and with an average of between 50 and 60. And what I'm saying that's important about that is that the secret documents say it's workforce housing, right? It's just not. It's not just low. It's not just high. It's workforce. It's the middle. We're trying to capture the middle in this. Not perfect,
And
but
what
at
about the
least
mix
it's an
of
attempt.
bedrooms and the disbursement throughout?
Right, exactly. So that's more. That is going to be a covenant also, but it will be like a condition of the approval that they actually note that on the plans that where the units will be and the type of units it will be.
Okay, so John's covenant, we're going to amend a little bit of that language
Yeah,
and then
the way I
adopt
see
it.
it, you'll add that it's gonna be, what did I say?
Yeah.
A mix of the 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. And the AMI will be between 30 and 80 and 30, but the average will be 50 and 60. And then I think you wanted a provision for local advertising for the 16 units.
We did.
Yeah.
Right. Is that a covenant? I think that's more of a condition, right?
It's more of a
condition.
Yeah. So the lottery will handle per the state regulations or the state requirements, and then it'll be a locally advertised.
I'd add in the covenant too that the units are going to be interspersed throughout the
In perpetuity.
Yes,
and
and
in
that is- so
perpetuity.
that's
In
second.
perpetuity.
is the
Well, that
biggest
was in my.
Okay, so you have all the exact language clear
I
for this
do.
covenant?
I do.
So it does eliminate the up to 130
Yep.
Right.
for this particular project. It's something that we could tackle on other
Project.
projects.
And another
Yeah,
project.
I was
We'll have
gonna
to
say
pay
it's-
You know,
attention to
really
that a little
looking at
more,
that. You know,
So
just as
we're
a
going to
planning
need
issue,
your
looking at
catch-all thing in there
Exactly.
too, right?
Oh,
Is an
yeah, I
intention?
think that helps.
Yeah, I was going to
This
comment
helps.
on that,
Yeah,
John. I
the-
said,
the
you know,
mix,
we should learn from this, and when we have these things come in the future, at the
Yeah,
at the zoning
have this.
I have
at
that.
the, at the
So I'm
zoning
gonna
application
have that.
phase, when there is the power to do those things and make sure we get what we want, we need to focus more on that.
So we
As
always
best
say
we
like
can.
form follows financing, and now even these other parameters follow financing, and we're just becoming like really more savvy to what all that means for us.
Yeah.
And the more I think we, one win that we had recently with HCR I had a lot of conversations with that gentleman, his name is Ross Karp, who runs it, is that I was like, we need funding for smaller prototypes, not these huge, we need the 30 unit development funding and because everybody proposes these huge things because that's what gets financed. And so they created a smaller like classification that they're going to roll out. So there is still room to always work together with the state, and I think it's going to be a nice development. I'm satisfied with the way that you've done a good job with the site plan. We're getting preservation. There's a lot of positives here, and it is going to help a lot of people. So all told, I just wish that we could have been more clear on that, but now it feels like it's
Well, the
kinda
next
too far
development
gone.
should be like
Well, it's a learning
young
experience.
professionals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
so tell us now, walk us through what we have to approve.
Okay,
First, you
I'm
want to do,
gonna make it as easy as possible here. Okay, so the first thing would be to
Thank you.
the finding statement, but do you want to go through the conditions? And I can make it simple for you. So I have the staff, so
Which
it'll say
document?
NRP, site plan,
Lot 1.
lot 1, okay? We're not gonna adopt this yet, we're gonna go back and do, but I wanna make sure you have the conditions right, then we'll adopt the finding statement.
not 1 and 2, 1.
Just, that's the staff report, which is gonna be your basis of adopting this, okay? And I'm gonna just briefly go over it, but stop me if there's some condition, right?
This is for the combined for 1 and 2, the staff report.
That's the staff report, I just gave you this, I gave you that.
Oh, so you just want to go direct
here it
to
is.
the resolution?
Yes,
To the
Which is
resolution.
for just
This one, John.
Okay.
yeah, I haven't given you 2 yet, because I don't wanna
Okay.
confuse everybody. But I'm gonna say 1 is the changes, right? And G under 1 is that new thing about the interspersal of the units, okay?
Where are we, Claire? I'm so sorry. I
That's
just
okay.
want to make sure I follow you.
1 here, it's here. So these are changes to the site plan. You see most of them. The last one is about the interspersal.
One.
Okay. All right. Know the exact location of the 16 units. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. And then you've seen the rest of this, John. Nothing is new under 2, 3. These are just changes to the building plans, site plan, lighting plans, and then the general conditions. Now,
The general conditions are either our typical things like screening, or they're exactly from the code. I just took them from the code and I put them right in here, so everybody's clear. What we're gonna do under the general conditions, and you can see that goes to double N, is we're gonna add the lottery per the state regulations, right? And the reference to, the
The
local
lottery.
advertisements.
I don't remember anything about the lottery. I remember local advertising. This is going to be administered by the state. It's not going to be administered by the town.
Administered by,
Right.
by NRP through HCR.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was just
Yeah.
saying generally per state regulations.
Well,
Is
that's
that
fine.
good enough?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Yeah,
different,
so that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
And then, and the local and having local advertisements. So I was gonna have that one idea, because
Where
I
are you
think it's,
putting that?
I'm making it a new
In-
double O.
Double O. After double
This
N?
is the most conditions of all time, by the way. Yes.
So what you're seeing, what the board is seeing on this proposed resolution is changing dramatically. Your items 6B.
Right, so let's talk about that now. So we'll just talk about this very specifically, so everybody's on the same page. It'll be a combination of both of ours, John. So I think the first two sentences of my I are fine, right? And then you eliminate the last sentence, which is the 30. So we'll do that. Okay?
What are you eliminating? The income level?
Last-
Income level.
The last sentence at I.
Okay.
Talks about
Bless you.
80 to 130 AMI.
Mhm.
More congested at the moment.
And then I think I is, I mean,
So, and then
2
you-
is fine, right, except for the last sentence, but with the 50%, and that's going to be replaced with the 30 to 80%, and the average between 50 and 60.
What's the average, tell you again? Average,
Between 50 and 60 AMI.
50 and 60?
Mhm.
That's a good compromise, I like that.
And
So
the
that
rest-
replaces 50% of the units, right?
Right, and then John had that, oh, I had the nice catch-all in there, right? It's in there, the mix of the income, okay.
Well, hold on a second. So, just want to see how it tracks what I
that's-
want. 20% of the units, 16 units shall remain affordable per chapter 216 in perpetuity. We're in agreement with that. The remainder of the units, I'm skipping down to 2, shall be affordable per chapter 16 for a period of 50 years, pursuant to subsidies or grants from the federal government, state of New York, or other municipal agencies. I think the mix of all of the income units, not the 62, shall be low, middle, moderate, as restricted pursuant to grants from the mix of all of them. And then you talk about the 50 to 60, between 80 and 30.
Oh,
and the
just make it
average
a
being
separate
50, yeah.
idea for all of them?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
I
just
guess you
limited
could do
to
that.
Mix it, well, you can keep it in 2.
No, I think I can make it a 3.
Well, I
Let's
think
do
it
that,
makes
make it
more
3.
sense separate because
The mix of
mix
income
is the
units,
same
of housing
across
units,
all of
take out the 62, shall be low, moderate, medium, middle, as restricted pursuant
And
to
the
grants.
average should be about all of them too. So you're right.
Right.
So we'll make it
Yeah,
we'll make it a new
you're
4.
separating it because
No,
Yep.
make it the 3 and then just make the managers 4.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's right. That's
Okay.
right. Okay. But make sure, so we all in agreement that we have the average AMI will be between 30 and 80. No, I'm sorry. The AMI will be between 30 and 80, but the average between 50 and 60.
60, yeah. Right.
But that's not what it says in the. In this, is
No,
that
it
what-
doesn't.
No, right. It's going to be a new sentence.
Yeah.
That sentence for the 50% of the
Okay.
units
Yeah,
shall
but
be
Yeah.
stricken, and there's going to be a new sentence that says what we've been discussing, the 30
Well,
to 80.
let's say what it's going to say.
I said it 3 times, but I will say it again.
Go ahead.
All of the units, right?
Yep.
All of the units shall be between 30 and 80 AMI, with the average being between 50 and 60%.
and the other 2 earlier ones, it's I can't say
In perpetuity.
perpetuity and 50 years. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
those.
Yep.
That's the first definition.
Yes, that makes sense.
They're all gonna be in the same group of buckets.
Yes.
Sounds good.
And 60, thank you.
Yeah. BI is good, B2 is okay.
Now, there's nothing in here about the town and managing in this because we know we can't, for a while we were gonna break out the 16, but we know that doesn't work, right? Okay. Are you in agreement, Claire?
Yes,
Okay.
and then I'll change the references in the staff report to match up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so the town is not managing with 16.
No, they're
Okay,
managed
they're all
by,
gonna get managed together, they can't.
we
I
can
understand.
separate
I was
them.
always wondering how that was going to work.
Okay? Everybody okay with this? Good,
Okay.
so motion to
Well,
adopt.
hold on. It's gonna. So you're gonna do this finding statement first.
Okay, we have to do that. So
So
is that
there's
the
a
NRP
resolution.
holding?
Yes, there's a resolution that was passed down.
NRP holding is the title of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Draft in progress, it says?
Draft in progress. Until we adopt it.
Somewhere here.
This one.
Yeah, it's. I got it.
Okay,
It says that, the whole history of this until the point where the planning board, the last sentence of the first page, the planning board's reviewed the finding statement adopted by the town board and finds the document addresses mitigates the identified impacts. Now, therefore, be resolved based upon the board's review, the contents of the subject DES, FEIS, and finding statement, consideration, comments received in the public, and agency review process, the measures identified to avoid and minimize impacts. The planning board of the town of Southampton, as an involved agency, concludes the identified impacts have been avoided or mitigated to the maximum extent practicable. And be further resolved, planning board of the town of Southampton hereby accepts and adopts the finding statement as their own on January 23rd, 2025.
okay,
So much.
good for everybody? Motion to accept, Tom, second by George, all in favor. 6 in favor, 1 absent, so we've adopted the finding report. Now we can adopt the lot 1 site plan,
With
as
those
as
changes.
amended, yeah.
Yes, those changes.
Okay, so that's this one, right? Huh?
You okay?
Am I okay?
Yeah, you were talking about something, I just want to make sure you're okay.
No, I'm talking
Yeah.
Oh,
with
sorry.
those
So it's
changes.
this one?
Yes.
Okay, so lot 1 site plan with the amended. That Claire just went over, Claire and John just included. Everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, motion by Claire, second by David.
Well, Claire?
Claire would.
I mean, sorry, Kate, it's beginning with the same cup. By Kate, second by David, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Okay.
So that's done.
And we have lot 2.
Then we have lot 2.
So, John's seen this. The only change is that I had forgotten, in the staff report, I had put that there would be 2 chargers on the main lots.
Lot 1.
The lot 2, lot 2.
That's the car wash.
Yeah, I have a problem.
And then John has a problem with it, and I didn't put it as a condition, but it is now a condition in the decision.
This is car wash, I'm not gonna provide charges for the public at this. You didn't even require me to do that at the Tesla site. So, I don't see, there's no nexus. I mean, if you didn't require it at the Tesla site, then I can't
This
require
is at the
public
laundry.
access. That's the only issue
Yeah.
I have with this.
And they have parking, right? I mean,
There's
so,
parking, but it is a type of use where you go in and out, you're dropping stuff off, or the car wash, which is, you're not even getting out of the car, right?
yeah,
So it's not some place that you would, it's not like a library or
right,
someplace,
where
a
you could do a
restaurant,
charge, yeah.
where you would be there for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's laundromat.
I mean, we have the
Laundry.
chargers on the
On the development.
on the
yeah,
development.
Yeah,
But I particularly loved your comment about seeing people. Maybe Dennis was talking about people putting extension cords out their windows to charge the
No, it wasn't
cars. No, it was Dennis. But yeah, but I would object to the charges on the struggles on
But that's
So
it.
we'll eliminate-
Otherwise, there's things we've discussed and closing of the curb cuts and such, and the trailers being counted and provided, and a buffer on either side of the property.
So which one are we taking? What number?
You want my
is it?
conditions?
What
The
number?
last,
One eye.
one eye would be stricken.
One eye, okay, indicate two charges, okay, good. No, I think we're clear, John, you're all right with everything? Everybody okay with everything?
Yeah.
Motion to accept? Okay, second by David, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
I
I'd like to debate the need for a chat for another hour before we do these.
Yes, please, take a 10-minute break.
Anything on the subdivision? We don't, nothing on the subdivision.
Planning board in East Hampton.
No, it was adopted.
County of Montauk wanted to put 4 charging stations.
Thanks, Claire.
Thanks for your work on this.
2.5 hours. 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
You would
Motion
think so,
time.
Jerry.
Motion to adjourn. By Kate, second by George, all in favor.
Thank you. Thank
Six
you
in
all.
favor,
Thank you for
one.
working
We
through
are
that.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.